Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series. Of course, it is the January edition. We're kicking off the year with a bang. My name is Nari Mizuki, or Sam, and I'm going to be joined by Tenrik this evening. How are you feeling today?
It's great to be here, Sam, to kick off the year with a bang here in the monthly series. 80 teams coming to show their skills off. We're going to cut down to 20 quite shortly and then end things off with the grand finals by the end of the evening. Our apologies. We are actually right in the middle of the series. The tournament's already started. We're about to enter game number 2, heading over to Group D as 20 teams over in that lobby are trying to make their case for a grand finals appearance, but the competition is really stiff, and there are not a whole lot of spots in any of these lobbies.
Yeah, and of course, the prize pool of $1,000 for these 80 teams to be fighting over. That's quite something. Clearly, there's a lot on the line here. So, as you said, we've got our 4 different lobbies. That's going to be whittled away over the course of 4 games. So, 1 game played off stream and then 3 remaining. By the end of those, we'll have our top teams. They'll be going into the finals to duke it out. And of course, we're not going to be playing everything on one map. Our first 2 games in the group stage will be World's End, and then we move over onto Storm Point. And similarly, when we get to the finals, first 2 maps will be World's Edge, and we'll round things out on Storm's Point.
And of course, the format for points alongside those 4-game series are the same as in ALGS. Placement points and KP completely identical. The top 5 scoring teams from each of these 4 groups will be the 5 to move on to that final 20 in the grand finals. There's no losers bracket, there's no match point, it's just how well you do over your 4 games in both of those circumstances. Money from the prize pool of $1,000 will go to the top 8 teams split among them, so a little bit of a wider spread than a lot of these other tournaments. Love to see that. A lot of these teams going to be able to come away with something in their pockets. And of course, there are a couple stipulations inside there, but for the most part, I think it's basically, an identical point system to ALGS, just with a slightly smaller sample size of games to play through.
Yeah, I think obviously with that being the standard, makes a lot of sense to follow that format. Players, easier for the admins, so it does work. Now, just a few points for anybody who is curious about how things are working in this tournament. So it is open to all regions. They do play obviously on one specific server. It is also open to both PC and console. There are a few caveats here and there, a few restrictions, but all console players are allowed to play as well, or rather, not controller. That's the word. I have them as the same thing in my head because I'm not used to controllers on PCs. So if you're interested in playing and you didn't know how it worked, there you go. A little bit of a breakdown for you. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this is going to pan out. Now, as we mentioned, 1 game has already played out, so I think we can maybe take a look at the groups and we might have some scores for you. If not, our bad, but we'll see what we have available, and we'll have a look at some of the teams as well. Here you go. Group D, which is the group that we're going to be following today, already kicking things off with Singularity at a pretty strong lead.
Yeah, a good couple of these teams, again, pretty used to this environment of the mildly professional Apex Legends. Group D, probably the most chock-full group of teams with that experience, in my opinion. Singularity, Risen Rose, Revival Games, Team Orglis, Nightmare, all of them have had solid brushes very recently with the pro scene. A good couple of these teams fresh out of the Challenger Cup, and no doubt also headed towards that pro LCQ. I think 1 or 2 of these teams are also were able to barely make that cutoff point as well. But yeah, Singularity having a really great starting game, getting 16 kills in that first run on World's Edge, and they'll have another chance to go back.
Well, speaking of, we're going to be jumping into game 2 very, very shortly. A reminder that it is going to be World's Edge. We've already started to see where these teams might be heading, what direction they'll be heading into, but still a few more games to play through. Now, I know you're you're pretty familiar with some of these teams. So tell us rather, which of the teams that we should really be looking to get some really interesting results from?
Well, among other things, I think Risen Rose is a team that constantly needs to be watched, simply because their rotations are really masterful. When it comes down to actual skirmishes and getting kills, sometimes they can lag behind, and Unfortunately, that means that they kind of get stuck in the middle of the pack from game to game, but when they pop off, they find their way up, they claw their way back, and once they really get their feet off the ground, there is no stopping this team. So people need to make sure they've constantly got Risen Rose figured out, among, of course, all of these other teams. Teams like Team Orclis, who, again, have a lot of trouble getting their feet off the ground, often actually contest other sites, other drop spots, which a lot of other teams don't necessarily encounter as often. But Orglis and Risen Rose, definitely two teams that I'm paying attention to in particular. But a lot of other players and, teams and squads in general, not just in this group, but among the entire pool, to really pay attention to. And of course, we'll get to put a much bigger magnifying glass over a lot of those really special teams come grand finals. But until then, those teams have to prove that they deserve to be there. Inferno trying to become one of them, getting that drop down into game number 2 here in Group D.
I'm very curious to see how this one's going to pan out. Of course, the first game can really start to kind of set the tone a little bit, and for those teams that didn't do particularly well, they can start to feel a bit of a drive, like, all right, guys, we got to get it together. And of course, the teams in the lead, well, they're going to be feeling really, really confident, and that can sometimes it can bring about some really interesting, aggressive plays from time to time, but also there's the potential for the hyper... what's the word? Not patient, but hyper, like, careful, I suppose, plays. You might see a little bit more of that as well. So I'm quite excited to see, because obviously a lot of these teams are kind of the up-and-comers in the world of Apex. So there's a lot to see here and a lot to learn about the future of Apex Legends.
For sure, yeah. There's a lot of grassroots stuff that is going to fly under literally everyone's radar. There's always, some sort of X factor that nobody could possibly see coming. And who knows, maybe that could blossom today, or maybe perhaps one of these teams could restake a claim or something like that. There's always a chance, and a lot of spots up in the prize pool. Like we said, 8 of the top teams going to be able to get a piece of that $1,000, and so good amount of players going to be walking home after tonight with a solid amount of money in their pocket. 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy, headed up by Hambino. Blur Flavor is going to fall, though, has taken on Spire Academy over here in Big Mod. Another entrance that Silent is going to try and head in on. Going to be able to find that track down. Has double lights, including that R9. Trying to follow one down. Big chase. Eventually able to find the clean shots to grab that other down. And 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy. An early grave for most of them. 1 escapee so far, but Spire, I don't think, is going to let them go uncontested.
I know Singularity, watching in the kill feed, they managed to wipe out a squad of their own a little bit earlier. FMA Brotherhood is out, and that's really sad, because that really is one of the best animes. And I hate to see it. But maybe we'll see their anime redemption arc in the third lobby. But for now, unfortunately, they're down and out. That was a pretty early engagement, though, when you consider how teams tend to play. I like that we now have the big map up here, so we can get a better idea of where teams are positioned. And you can see there's quite a lot of condensation, so to speak, up over towards Skyhook. You've got a little bit over towards Climatizer, but it's not quite as bad. And then, of course, Thermal Station tends to be quite a popular one as well. So a lot of these teams are going to have to be very weary. They could possibly be running into another team quite soon. Yeah,
Risen Rose, one of the teams over here on Thermal Station. It should be said that drop spots were not publicly or even privately claimed by any of these teams, and so a lot of them may be flying blind into these claims. Incompetent Abe going to be fully finished off there by Risen Rose. That's going to be 3 KP for the team, I believe, and unfortunately that black hole a little late to the party. Risen Rose still going to be able to loot up and shoot up and head over to that northern circle, which, like you said, a lot of occupation on Skyhook primarily. Of course, that tends to be the go-to at the moment, simply because of how much safety in those buildings you have, and also how often this circle just tends to appear there, especially in this recent patch. It just seems like Skyhook is one of the favorite spots of the Storm as well. But Climatizer also, I think, a good spot to put a lot of your chips in, at least for now, simply because of the loot and how much space you're able to have on a rotation when it's necessary. But until then, you're able to kind of chill out and not have to worry about too many invasions coming through. Speaking of invasions, it looks like Singularity is going to try and pull off another one here onto Risen Rose as soon as they exit, but it's going to be a tough one. Full purples at this point. Artie is looking to get an early shot with the longbow, missing 1, but finding 2 more, and that's a good amount of damage done to the perp before the fight even starts.
And of course, now we're going to see that aggression come in. A very aggressive lobby we have here, all things considered. But the push starts to come in. A bit of damage taken from the lava there, and that puts them out in the open. But they are able to get behind a little bit of cover here. Possibly give themselves a moment of respite. But of course, there's a potential third party coming in here as well. And of course, that could be incredibly detrimental for either of these two teams, whichever one manages to come out on top of this kerfuffle. Elysium's going to have to just stop for a moment. Or Arcstar forces them off of their position, not giving any opportunity to get the battery, but finally is going to be able to use that.
Yes, down to Flesh, and the Laser War gonna bat back up again. Both these teams perfectly content with utilizing all of this space that Thermal Station provides to their advantage. A lot of high ground is also to toy with to an extent. Those mild bits of altitude could be really helpful, and it seems that Singularity may have to deal with them, but Risen Rose is also being driven out by that storm, and so now you have to play Edge as well, tacked onto that. And also, the fourth party heading up, gonna try and play Gatekeeper to this duo of squads, as it looks like Singularity's gonna try and press that trigger, get that Horizon Q in, and up they go. Vesk already all taking damage from the storm, but all dealing just a little bit more. Risen Rose, Fluxen, the first to fall, and now will fall fully, but Singularity, Elysium is already down. Artie and Vesk under that pressure have to bat and then Kit, hypothetically here, but already the damage is getting done back. Through the smokes, both teams trollops. It's down to just Artie, medkit in hand, but might not have the time to use it as Risen Rose has struck back and is able to find the lion's share of this damage. But now HYK has also gotten in on the fun, and with only one down, they're able to get this res and now control Thermal Station before literally everyone has to get out of it.
Jeez, and what a dangerous place to have this confrontation. Okay, bearing in mind it is only round one, so the zone damage isn't insane, but it takes so long for the confrontation to happen that now the whole thing is happening in the zone. Now you have 3 squads left, but 2 of them down to like 1 player left alive as they attempt to maintain their life, but they also can't necessarily rotate easily or without too much kickback, because obviously the moment they peek out, this is what's going to happen. You get fired upon, you're already taking fire from the zone, and none of these 3 teams are really being allowed the opportunity to move back into the ring. This is a really, really precarious position for all of these teams. It might just be chip damage, but you could still wind up worse for wear on the other side.
Another big part that we neglected to mention before heading into this game, simply because bit of a time crunch, unfortunately. Oh, Demon! Headed off by the micros! And is gonna be forced down mid-res. Oh, that's so crucial. But yeah, the tables really turned position-wise here, and HYK is bottlenosed out a bit. But yeah, something that I think was kind of important to mention here is that backpacks are not in crafting rotation right now, and so there's a lot of reliance on that floor loot, on those cases, on those bins, in order to have that storage for all the meds that teams that will voluntarily play Edge like this will have to go for. And so I will have to rest on their replicator to farm out the kits and the bats, and then wait between crafting. And you know, in the midst of it, just have to try and find those better modes of storage. They're not as accessible this time around. Skyhook still in view in the circle here. Good couple teams once again making their claim. So much space allotted to them at the moment, not only thanks to how open Skyhook is right now and how all of it is currently still in the circle, but also a lot of teams have been burned away, a lot more than I think many of these teams may have been used to. And so it's not like there are many invasions that are imminent on Skyhook either. Most of these teams are pretty safe.
Yeah. Oh, that was something that I wanted to talk about before we got into that massive engagement earlier. But like, this is one of the more aggressive lobbies that I've seen. We dropped about 4 or 5 teams within the first ring, and that is unreal. It's very, very seldom that you see stuff like that happening. And unfortunately with... Oh, never mind. Make that 6 teams. Jeez. And Singularity went down as well. A lot of that due, of course, to the fact that the fight was out in the ring, or rather in the zone. Only 1 player left alive, and eventually got whittled away. And that was our top scorer in the last game. If you missed the scoreboard a little bit earlier on, they were our top team with about 28 points, if I'm not mistaken. So taking them off the board early without even being able to get a top 10 placement is actually a huge boon for the remaining teams here. That's going to kind of disallow them from getting many more points and give a lot more opportunity for some of these teams to catch up. Remember, 4 games sounds like a reasonable amount, but it's actually very, very little. And to try and drum up enough points in such a small amount of time can be a little bit daunting. So in that regard, I think it makes sense that we're seeing a little bit more aggression from these teams. They don't have as much of a safety net in terms of more games to play. They really have to give it their all from the get-go.
Yeah, you only have a little more than half of the potential placement points over the course of each pool to grab. That is, it's a very volatile and very finite comparatively point pool to try and grab from. Skyhook going to be weaned away a little bit in this upcoming circle, but most of the teams don't really have to worry about that at the moment because they're already in spots that they need to be. The Climatizer rotation turning into a survey camp spot. Meanwhile, Skyhook still not too many teams there, honestly. I mean, 3 or 4 in a second circle is like, you know, that's honestly kind of petty comparatively, but it doesn't mean that a fight cannot start. And indeed, it looks like we see some skirmishing over near the more eastern end of Skyhook. Is these teams, they're starting to meet each other as they have to eventually, you know, vacate to an extent. But again, a lot of opportunities to play super non-committal up here. This northwestern end of the circle is just so safe right now.
It's a little daunting, I think. A lot of these teams, it feels like they haven't had all of the time in the world to really do some decent looting. I think that's why we've got a few more circle sweep teams. Those shots. I wasn't sure they were going to make it through alive. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, that it starts to make a bit more sense why you have more of those circle sweep teams, and I think it gives them a little bit of an advantage in that they've got a bit more time to do looting, whereas your teams that are playing, excuse me, for the ring might not necessarily have those same opportunities. They might be at a little bit more of a disadvantage. And of course, because it's becoming such a clustered mess of teams, they're far more likely to wind up in engagements now. So you don't really have the time or the freedom to do some of that looting. So they really do have to be kind of on edge from start to finish.
ULW opting for an Ashe inside this composition and gonna try and utilize it to play this low ground more effectively and then maybe turn it to a more advantageous fight. Already finding a good spot to head in on, but a castle wall has been placed down in tandem, and now the skyward dive is gonna be used for this team trying to get out of there. But in the process, Jeff Masters on that side will fall, so it's only a duo that's able to get out safely. And not only are we already down to a 10 squad lobby, but a lot of these squads are just rats.
Yeah, only 24 players left. That tells you that there are 6 players missing. So you could have a squad or two of only 2 players, but very likely, as you say, you got some players ratting it out, trying to get that placement, trying to survive just until the end of the game as long as they possibly can. But now things, of course, have calmed down quite drastically, whittling down to only half the max number of teams available into round 3. There's so much space to maneuver around in, so teams are far less likely to come up against one another unless you kind of go hunting for it. So there's a lot more time now. Teams can be a little bit more relaxed, but very soon they're going to have to start pushing for position. Position is so important. You can try and find yourself a nice little high ground spot, maybe in a building, give you that little bit of extra cover. That's going to give you, you know, a huge advantage into those late fights. But of course, if you already have that position, you're going to get contested. These teams are, of course, going to have to be on the lookout.
And now this is a fun spot over here in Storage Room that is still completely safe. And Brainrot Zero IQ, I mean, they've been holed up here for a good while now, I gotta say. And they still have this upcoming circle along with 2 ways to rotate out of it. So they are looking pretty solid right now. But a lot of other teams starting to converge on these destinations as the circle does converge. And Epicenter and Survey Camp are now becoming less safe spots as it looks like the circle has opted a bit more towards the spot above it. Actually, Survey Camp might be safer. It looks like it's actually going to be Skyhook that is going to need to be left for the most part here. So a big rotation incoming, and we saw what can happen when just one team has to move. A skirmish developed so quickly, but now when there's 3 or 4 teams, you know, trying to develop that new spot in these already unclaimed spaces on such a condensed spot like the track, like those tunnels on the way, over to something like Survey Camp, over to something like the opening outside of the tunnel, then we might have a couple more dogfights on our hands.
It looks like there might be an engagement here already. 2 teams kind of feeling each other out a little bit. A few pot shots getting taken, just trying to chip away at the resources as much as possible. And of course, this is the circle gatekeep position. You want to stop those circle sweepers from getting into the ring if you can. Meanwhile, we got teams getting taken out off screen. VTubers getting, well, 2 VTubers.
That's Hambino gone.
Out. There you go. That was one of those rats, right? Just completely wiped off the board here, down to the last 8 squads remaining. And it's still just pot shots. And we saw, like, teams are slowly zeroing in on each other in this same kind of area moving in towards the ring. So it's going to become a lot more dangerous. Already, look at this. These two teams are so close to one another, but there's another third team towards the entrance of this tunnel as well. So no one is safe at this point. We're looking at another third-party situation potentially.
And this is where a lot of the openers, the initiators, those info champions really come into play here. Even that Ashe to an extent for that AoE, but that Seer, even the BH, which I don't know if any teams that are still alive have on that repertoire for this game. But just all these really tight and narrow, especially spaces, just cause how much of the circle is just tunnel right now. It's terrifying. And yet, I think Brainrot Zero IQ feels very comfy because they know that they have the right LOS right now. They know that the other team has to come literally directly their way. There is no other way that this team can fight this out. Circle's too strong at this point. And so this squad on the other end has to make their choice. And it is one singular choice. The question is just when.
I suppose they could try to rotate around, but you
I mean, they could dive,
very
maybe.
likely... Yeah. I think you just kind of open yourself up to potentially more problems. So this tunnel position for Brainrot Zero IQ is actually fantastic. Anyone who tries to move through...
Oh, charge rifles on him.
These pot shots, man. But the thing is, they have to connect.
Yeah.
And there's so much cover here. It's really easy to try and kind of dodge those shots. But the potential for another team coming up upon this, like, it's going to force teams out into the open.
Yeah, this is ULW rotating around. They were the ones actually gate kept away here initially for Brainrot Zero IQ, and now they can sandwich with the help of the other third party that's coming in. Except, no, it's Banana Kingdom that's taking the lion's share of the shots. They will go down first, but this real fight's still in the tunnel. ULW taking a good amount of damage. MRG batting back up as Gooey having to rotate back away again, and just like that, they are kept away in the storm again. MRG burnt down. ULW has two players in them, and they're covered by the Nox gas now. But the grenades going the other way as well. Quick little Ashe portal, but they cannot get away like that. Gooey now trying to find the remainder of the shots, but there's just too much overwhelming damage, and Brainrot Zero IQ will clear away all the competition. ULW and Skullpiercer now eliminated, but the fight is still not totally done. Spire Academy is now occupying, and a fifth party may be in their midst.
Does that feel like a final zone fight to anybody else? That was just so messy, but now with only 3 squads left with NorCal going down, things start to get a little bit more interesting here. Now, what does kind of concern me about Spire Academy, they're quite separated from one another, so they are going to have to kind of meet back up. Otherwise, if you get caught out on your own, you more than likely, you could take one down with you, but you're probably just going to get melted down. This is a good position for information gathering. You can already see some teams kind of posturing towards coming in through this tunnel again, but it is 2 of the last 3 teams. So this wraparound could actually be massive if they can get into position in time.
Yeah, Spire, it's all about timing for them, I think, here. As they're watching the right sight lines. Netty finding a good amount of damage to start things out, and they've locked down at least one location, but like you said, really ISO'd right now. And Netty, while they have a good way out back to the rest of the team, it is still so widely spread. But they've comfortably taken over this entire northern edge of the circle. And they're capable of that too, because again, only 3 squads remaining. And with this condensed space among the other squads, it is tough to do anything else. But Netty, now getting 3'd, triple teamed up, has to launch that ultimate out. They go back to the rest of the team. Inspire Academy now locked in the firefight initially here as the Rolling Thunder comes through on the other end to dissuade any re-engagement. But Spire, huge attack from the horizon! And Silent gets a lot of damage done to start things out, but the rest is done right back to Ore. But so much burning coming through from Silent, my god. This gold R9 is vicious right now.
And that was such a dangerous position to have up in the sky in the middle of nowhere. But as you said, right, just firing straight through, peppering into those players, getting so much of that damage. Now heavily under fire themselves, and yet still Silent is able to peek out. He knows that those 2 teams are fighting amongst each other, and the third party potential is just... Oh, it's just too good to pass up. But now the fight is moving out of the tunnel. It's moving out into the open. And teams are going to struggle to find a place, a position to hold from. Nice little high ground here for Aragu. A little bit of damage coming through. The The Jibby Bubble comes out to try and protect, but damage is still peppering along. Look at this. The spray is fantastic. Two of his teammates have gone down. Has to fight to stay alive. And he's able to get the last kill of this lobby.
Yeah, Spire Academy just aiming better throughout all of those fights. Silent on Aragu and Netty even. All of them just absolute lasers. And it's a game that needed to happen because Spire came into this second one with 0 points on the board. But now they sit atop. I need to see how many kills they got to see where they will stack among the competition. But we'll have to wait until the new scoreboard comes for that. But that is the end of World's Edge here for Group D. Really big. Congratulations to Spire Academy on that W, but this group not even close to being over.
No, but we can have a look at some of the other groups. We didn't really get the opportunity to do that. So we'll take a look at what's been happening, where the other teams are, how they fared in their first game of the day. Our first group that we're going to take a look at is, of course, Group A. Wow, 45 points. I believe that seems like a lot for one game. I imagine this is updated to game 2 as well, because there's a lot of points on this board. So there you go. I mean, that is a solid lead for LFO Forever to have.
Yeah, that is LFO Forever taking first in the first game and then second in the second game, grabbing a total of 24 kills along with that. Yeah, dangerous beginning to that World's Edge run. And a huge gap in general to get those top 5 teams. Halo Boys 6 above the Honkers right now, thanks to a really impressive game 2 show out from all those top 5 teams. But yeah, a lot of work needs to definitely get done here on Stormpoint coming after that. But going into Group B as well, bit less of a gap, and I believe that's only because we've gone through one game in that group so far. Yes, indeed. Yeah. No Reply taking second in that game, but getting more than double the kills of Vermouth, who took first. And so they have an 8-point lead against the victors of the previous lobby. And yet, yeah, this is not even close to figured out.
And that's an unreal number of kills there, just to really tip you over the edge. And of course, our second and third place tied up on points. So yeah, there's a lot to play for here in this group. I think there's quite a bit of a gap there, and we'll need to see some of those teams kind of step it up a little bit. Moving on over to Group C. Here are your teams. Lowest entropy coming in first. This is also only for game 1. The lowest entropy coming in with 21 points, which is not as big of a gap as what we've seen in some of the other lobbies, but it pips them over the edge, and of course, that's the really important part there.
And this lobby is also, a lobby that you really want to pay attention to. Of course, Team Mike and Ike and Godfire, 2 teams that are titans, especially in C2. Unfortunately, not really coming out on this first game. Mike and Ike taking 5th and only grabbing 3 kills, and Godfire grabbing 14th and grabbing 3 kills. So a lot of work needs to be done for these 2 teams to stake their claim on those grand finals. And again, only 3 games to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay, so they're still busy with game 2. But yeah, so technically 3 games still for them. But after that, of course, it is down to the only 2 games left. And now we do have the updated Group D. Now, Singularity, despite going out relatively early in that round, still able to come out on top with top points. So they do manage to maintain that top spot. But we've got a nice little tie coming in at second place, and the point differential between second to 5th place is so minuscule. I mean, even beyond, but of course, with only having played 2 games, that gap isn't really gonna grow terribly large. So these teams, of course, going to have to really focus in on getting some of those kills and trying to get those placements.
Very true. And with a sparser lobby as well, pay attention to those 3 teams with still 0s on the score. FMA Pilots, Team Orglis, and Too Much Rush. Unfortunately, all of them not in this lobby at this point, unfortunately. So only 17 teams available in that Group D. You could say it makes it easier, you could say it makes it harder. It's really hard to tell until after the teams have gone through that ringer, which is now 2 more games strong. But less competition needs to be eliminated for you to get for you to start earning points at the very least. So I think that's a good springboard for these teams to rock off on, especially on a volatile map as Stormpoint.
Well, just guys, we're gonna throw to a quick break very soon, but first, a little bit more about the Community Gaming, the $1,000 Apex Legends Monthly. It's brought to you, of course, by Community Gaming. Wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you very much for this one. They provide a tournament platform for games like Valorant, EVO, Hearthstone, and more. Community Gaming also supports a wide variety of grassroots tournaments, offering tools and guidance to organizers to to help supercharge their events. So head to communitygaming.io to learn more. Folks, we're going to take a short break. When we return, we will be back with lobby number 3 and Storm Point. Welcome back, everybody, to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series for January. We are 2 games down, and things are already starting to heat up a little bit. Now, we're going to be sticking with Group D as we make our way through the rest of this little group stage. But, you know, just for our own little information, for anyone who wasn't aware, we're also going to take a look at what the crafting rotation is at the moment. We have both the daily and the weekly, and it just gives you that little bit of extra info as to what might be going through the minds of our players, and of course where the hot drop spots are. So Henrik, why don't you tell me a little bit about this?
Well, we have, again, like I said in the previous game, no backpack available right now this week. Instead, the HCOG and the extended heavy magazine, the purple extended heavy mag, available in that crafting, and then the purple knockdown shield, as well as that mobile respawn beacon. That sticks out to me, obviously, more than anything else. Just having those free beacons available, especially in a map like Storm Point that has so much weird natural cover to play with, and also as Bangalore has been rising up in the ranks a little more often and more consistently, I think the Respawn Beacon is going to be a great choice for a lot of these teams, especially considering that playing Edge isn't really as consistent right now, just because drop spots were never claimed. A lot of these teams are just used to scrims, and hell, even just ranked lobbies for a lot of them. And so with how open a lot of these tournaments are, sometimes you just can't play like you would in a tournament. Sometimes you got to play more akin to a ranked lobby and just play for those KP, play for that placement, play, you know, however you need to play to get to those grand finals. And now they're here on Stone Point, you got to do it differently. HYK not going to be available to do so. Aspire Academy has already cracked first blood here.
Right off the drop, that is brutal. Down to only 17 squads left. We've also got a little bit of fire happening across the map as well. These teams, oh my god, just absolutely no quarter given. And there's a third party coming in as well. NC just taking out a team, and Frogs getting taken down by a grenade as well. So teams definitely in it here to cause some havoc and cause some mayhem. Reminder, folks, we have moved from World's Edge over onto Storm Point, and an entirely different kettle of fish.
For sure. Yeah, these teams have to drastically change how they play. Here's Nightmare, a team that, again, no stranger to a lot of these games, but still doesn't make it any easier, especially when you have all of these players that no doubt a lot of them see in ranked lobbies, and no doubt a lot of them also see in those qualifiers, in those Challenger Cups, in those other T2 games. And now you have to prove again that you can crack open that glass ceiling. That skill gap that is still so present. A Nightmare trying to do that onto this last body. Doctoena attempting to escape death, but can only do it for so long. And Team Orglis once again back out of the fray.
Oh, Limek. Oh man, that's an OG of the Apex scene. Way back to like when the game launched. It's always cool for me to see some of those familiar names from when the game first launched, and we didn't have custom lobbies and teams were stream sniping, or not stream sniping, what's the word? Like lobby sniping to try and get lobbies together to try and play some semblance of a competitive game. And it was a terrible time. I hope we never go back there. But it was certainly fun, and it's been really cool watching a lot of these players really grow and improve and reach their full potential, and then seeing some of the other players who haven't quite managed to reach those heights yet, but are still doing their best and constantly working to improve and get to that top tier point. It makes me pretty happy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Love seeing everybody from Team Orglis just continue to try and take a crack at things. You always see those players sort of around, and unfortunately they haven't really had a day where they've been really able to overperform in the right moment. But I love, you know, watching them always at least be here to at least have a chance at that, because there's always a chance for, I think, that team to really make a statement. Circle once again heading over to the northwestern edge, but Skyhook isn't there anymore, so these teams have to change the rotation a good amount, especially with, again, all this natural cover and altitude that a lot of these teams already get to play with, and now, unfortunately, may have to play against in the upcoming rotations. But until then, once again, pretty spread, and with already 5 or 6 teams gone, you know, we may have entered a bit of a neutral period for the most part.
Yeah, I have to wonder if part of that isn't about the drop spot thing. So, like, when you get to your tier 1 teams, a lot of that is relatively established, those drop spots. I mean, even if you don't necessarily announce it, a lot of teams will have established spots, especially when you consider the scrims and how teams practice and stuff. That tends to be relatively well documented. But for these teams that are more grassroots, that don't really get as many opportunities, that maybe play a little bit more flexible, maybe some of them haven't quite figured out their style, so to speak, you might see a lot more of contested drop spots. And I think that might be a contributing factor into why we're getting quite a few fights so early on. You know, you're fighting for control of that spot, and sometimes that can backfire if you're consistently losing in the spot that you want. You might have to change your plan and drop somewhere else. But if you're consistently winning those fights, and of course, you get access to all of that loot, and you don't wind up spending a lot of time unnecessarily. So again, this is just kind of one of those growing pains, teams figuring out what their style is going to be and how they're going to continue playing along as their careers grow.
Absolutely. BRZ in the right circle, as is Risen Rose, is once again everybody just getting prepared Risen Rose currently just taking their time in an armory for the time being. As again, a lot of these teams, they have the time, they have the luxury to kind of just play how they want right now. Not too much danger in their midst, but same can't be said for a couple of these teams, as Singularity is caught dead in a fight here. Exhibit already placed down as we head into the battle. Singularity attempting to play harder for this building, but I'm going to take a couple of the doors, and they might have worse shields too, so I'm going to have to play a little bit safer as time goes on here, but out comes that Exhibit once again. The black hole too, along with the nade. Artie's going to fall. Elysium going to do a lot of damage with that Arc Star, though, and Incompetent Ape gets finished off from the other end by Besk. Singularity taking the team fight.
FMA Brotherhood haven't quite hit their redemption arc just yet. Not a lot of time left to do that, unfortunately. One of the other things I love about watching these grassroots games is seeing some of the compositions that come out. Like, I love that there is a new castle. I think that that is so cool, and I would love to see more of that in other future games. It's so good for kind of hunkering down and creating like a stalwart position, not giving up the spot that you're in because you're able to just fortify it so well. I love seeing more of that. We saw some of the Ash in the previous game as well, so a lot of creativity and changing things up a little bit.
For sure. NorCal over here now in Cascade, and it looks like they may have been a little too late to third party, and so instead they have to take a bit of a step back and maybe wait a little bit longer here. Another pack placed down here by Frogs is everybody's just taking their own buildings, but oh, the danger may be a little closer than warranted. And NorCal now has to cover their tracks far more preemptively. Frogs gets punished first for it. And now NorCal getting wiped by Singularity as well. That is going to be 6 KP going over to the victors here. But Azazel is still in this fight. Still trying to take on the world. And will get at least one before getting finished off in the background. So indeed, Singularity will get their 6. But now, 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy. They're going to try and jump in fourth party this. And now with only 2 team members available, a lot has to get thrown down, including that castle wall right out the gate. Hambino walled out for the time being.
And that's exactly why you love to see that coming in there. That's going to deny a little bit of space, give an opportunity to try to get the shielding and life back up. But unfortunately, the wraparound is just too strong. No quarter, no time allowed. And Team Singularity once again being taken out before given the opportunity to reach top 10. And that, I think after this game, they might just lose that top spot, which I think is definitely going to be a bit of a thorn in their side going forward. But for now, 2 VTubers and 1 Femboy doing quite well for themselves, giving themselves those extra little kill points, and of course, slowly inching their way to a slightly better placement.
And now, singular control at Cascade. No other team could say that for a hot minute there. Singularity, unfortunately, just barely missing out on that second placement point. BRZ, meanwhile, over in the northern end of this circle. Trying to find a different way in. Have a lot of safety to play with, and also, obviously, a lot of open ground, but... And they run to a second fight here. Rhynex heading up that front line, and the Exhibit already placed down reactively as the Rolling Thunder comes through as well. On the front line, no doubt. So the Pylon has to come out super reactively as well. A second Exhibit placed. Everybody from BRZ already almost down to flesh already. But have a little bit of time to shield back up, but in comes the re-entry from the tunnel under here in trenches. But with the help of this Pylon, with the help of that hesitation with the Exhibit, and that mobile shield that's getting used great by Rhynex, they have a little bit of extra time, but eventually they have to engage. And unfortunately, first 2 members of that go down. It's just down to Hori, who doesn't even have full blue right now. But there isn't too much competition they have to worry about right now. Plugged Cube for Risen Rose, attempting to get back in, but now comes the invasion once again. I think this is Brain Rot, if I'm not mistaken. I very well could be, though. Apologies if I am, but both these teams, now much worse for wear, are about to be headed up by another third party.
Oh no, Hori instantly getting chased in on. It's holding ground, manages to annihilate, but it is Brainrot indeed that come through and do the cleanup. And look at all of this loot that they're going to have for themselves off the back of this third party. The timing from Brainrot was fantastic. And of course, these two players had no idea that there was another team moving in on them. You kind of have that suspicion that, like, we could get third partied at any minute, but you don't know. And in that last second, Brainrot pushes through, manages to get that little bit of cleanup, and they get all of the spoils of war. Meanwhile, SLC Skullpiercer is going to get eliminated as well. So we're down to only 7 squads left. Again, it's still relatively early days, as it looks like, wow, okay, you just melted.
Hey, a good thing, though, because it looks like they might be third-partied soon as well. This is also occupied here. But 2v2 1 Fanboy, they have a lot of space, and they've spread themselves out pretty well, but ULW hasn't given their position until now. There's the Ash Tack. There's a couple pot shots taken by Gooey Gooey. Now there's the 3-man rushdown. Immediately Sonar back away, and with the 3 members, ULW doesn't exactly know what they're walking into, and they could pay the price for it. Gooey Gooey falls first. Flav and MRG, the only ones remaining atop this high ground, may have to choose to just abandon ship, and indeed, Flav is going to be the only one available to do that as MRG falls as well. Portal already used. Flav's still on the run. 2v2 versus 1 Fanboy are going to get the full 3 KP with almost no punishment, and it's a 5-squad lobby.
Man, have we had just one team versus one team, and then whoever wins goes off and about their day? We genuinely haven't. It's been consistent third parties, and of course that makes a lot of sense. That is the nature of the game. It is one of the best things that you can do to try and secure yourself victory. So yeah, it makes sense, but it's we having so many of them. Like, these teams, they're out for blood. They're not giving any space, any opportunity for these other teams to really have a moment to breathe, have a moment of respite. And it doesn't even matter that the zone is still so big and there's still so few teams left. Somehow all of these teams manage to find themselves so close to one another just as the fight breaks out. And it looks like we could be seeing this similar again, because there's Silent so close to 2 other teams that are about to engage with one another as well. And I believe, was Silent alone?
No. The rest of Spire is still up there in trenches.
I see them. Yeah, they were just off screen.
Yeah. The 2v2 1 Femboy, they are so hungry for this KP. They're going to try and move in on Brainrot right in the middle of this circle, where Spire could also easily third party. And wow, yeah, look at how empty this circle is. Here's the thing is, a lot of this I think is just a I think a lot of this is just a side effect of 4 games. That's a lot of it for me, is the fact that these teams know they have very limited time to get these points. And some of these teams who didn't really make their claim on World's Edge, they have to search for KP, because otherwise they're just not going to have enough to catch up. And so teams like 2v2 1 Femboy, like Nightmare, like Brainrot, are just gonna search, and now we see Spire doing that before the fight's even really concluded, before it even really started. Hell, they've already third party. It's a 3-team skirmish with 4 squads left, and we're on 3rd circle.
Yep, and all of these squads are at full capacity, so no one has much of an edge unless they have good positioning. And unfortunately for 2v2 1 Femboy, they're right in the middle of the mess, so they're the ones that are constantly going to be fired in on. And of course, Silent, with a nice little rotation around, manages to take 1 down, and that's going to give a little bit of an advantage here, a little bit of space created. You see the Bangalores coming out, lots of smoke to try and obscure that vision, and it may have given them a moment to try and survive, but as the smoke clears, the teams continue to move in towards one another. Spire attempting to divide and conquer here, but there are still so many teams left, and they're all retreating away from this area. They don't want to be caught in this building. They don't want to be caught out in the open, close to another team. Nobody wants to get third-partied. That was a dirty shot.
Limek. Yeah, it was dirty with the bow check that we've seen picked up. Very interesting. Yeah, Nightmare taking it back up. 2v1F also, what's left of them, backing away. So now, in theory, it's Spire and Brainrot, but one controls the high ground, one controls the low, and neither will be pressured to move from that spot for a long time unless Lai keeps hitting these shots, which they're on the road to doing, at least for now. Still have a lot of ground left to cover, and full Evos along the way as this circle finally will converge, and at least one of these teams will end up having to make a decision again. But man, it feels like this lull is milliseconds long, really, just because none of these teams want to stop fighting.
Yeah. It's not going to last very long, right? We see them start to pull back a little bit, start to give a little bit of space, but it's not going to be terribly long. They want to try and get this done quickly, but again, with the number of third parties that we've had, nobody wants to allow that to happen again. Now, Spire are the ones that are in a little bit of a tight spot here. Silent, of course, on the other side, trying to get this world drop. Oh, nice little smoke coming in from literally Narnia to give Silent the cover he needs to grab some of the world drop. Love to see it. Inspire. I mean, they get out completely uncontested, just like yoink mine, and they back out. And again, it's just posturing. Teams staring at each other down sights and not willing to commit.
Yeah. And still, every team except 2v2 vs 1 Fenboy, everybody's here. And even for 2v1F, they have probably one of the best positions right now, and also 2 players online. But as the circle changes, that might change as well, just because no one is on the southern edge. And so, ultimately, unfortunately, 2v1F is now in the worst position, I think. As all eyes will be on them first. Everyone else in or around this center building, and understanding that brawling from that perspective against somebody who's in that same area, not a good idea. It's all about being reactive at the right moment. It's all about who's going to be forced to act first, and thus who will probably make a mistake first. And Spire, Nightmare, neither of them biting just yet. Neither is Brainrot. 2v1F the closest to having to do so, but they are also the farthest from the rest of the fight, and so they will actually cause a series of decisions for these other 3 teams. Who is going to pay attention to the rats coming in, and who's going to pay attention to the 9-fold fight that we have going on in what is going to become this, in my opinion, probably last circle. I mean, let's be real.
Ooh. A nice little reveal coming through there, and the threat of the Kraber is imminent. And the thing about the Kraber, right, you have so few bullets, you're sometimes scared to pull the trigger. You want to make sure that it's going to connect. And so very often you're just using that insane scope for that little bit of extra information, try and spot out where some players are. Ragu, you're going to be feeling the pressure here to utilize those bullets, make sure that you're not wasting them unnecessarily, but now they know. There you go. Instantly swapping over onto the flat line. Kraber was just the information play. The reveal came through, and now they're slowly whittling away. The Watson fences give themselves a way in, but now Ragu himself has been spotted out.
Nightmare went to hunt down 2v2 vs 1 Femboy, understanding that this deadlock between the other teams is enough of a distraction to make sure that they are not third-partied, and indeed will work out. Brainrod 0 IQ, they are just so safe, and they have no intention of leaving anytime soon with the pylon, with those fences. But now it's Nightmare that's going to be forced to rotate away. Limac attempting to bridge that front line, but Spire has something to say about it, and Brainrot is just waiting to have a better fight here, I guess. And Spire, understanding that they might not have a better fight here either, as Nightmare is going to be able to bridge this territory on the southern end as well. But still, no safety in the circle. They have a little bit of time to play with, though, in this building. And they also have a lot of open space to take pot shots through for against the newly vacated Spire.
Silent is such a nutty Horizon, honestly. Like, what he's able to get away with in the sky without getting absolutely mowed down is ridiculous. You add on to that the fact that he's like a cracked out aimer. It's been a lot of fun to watch him, but he's going to need to be careful now because, again, down to these last 3 squads, and everyone's got a pretty good idea of where their opponents are. Got some of those pot shots coming through, gives away that position, and with the circle being so big, no one is in any imminent need to move just yet, so they can continue firing down sights, but eventually someone is gonna have to give. Someone is gonna have to try and make a rotation, and whichever team that is likely to get absolutely whittled away. And it looks like it might be Nightmare instantly pushing in. They see the shots firing, they realize that there's something happening here. They're gonna attempt to go for a third party.
Yeah, this is where it all converges into the exhibit they track, and now all the intel coming in. Brainrot 0 IQ is still in a safe spot, but the invasion is to come through at some point, and that pylon expires eventually. But Nightmare, the first approach does not go too well. They will back away, but now Brainrot is going to exit and take some shots at Spire too. Might be their undoing, but understanding there is one team on both sides of them right now as this circle is getting really tight. Maybe exiting is ending up being that best scenario, or that best option, considering there is a potential for that black hole to just catch them all after the pylon's gone. There's the potential for a Nox gas or a bombardment or something like that. You have to make a different choice. Nightmare choosing to laser up 7. Good amount of damage. Limac and Denze holding the off angle as well, and Nightmare have so much room to work with among this hybrid third party, but no one can breathe for a second. In comes one front line, and so much damage done out the gate. Spire Academy can't live to see a single second back in this building, but now comes the attempted third party from Brainrot. One falls through. Denzay and Limac, the last line of defense here for Nightmare to take the dub. Good amount of damage done on the red shield, but still no flesh broken through just yet. Limac will get it done once on Osby, but Denzay has been refragged upon. It's just down to Limac, and they're not going to get it done. Brainrot 0 IQ takes the first game on Stormpoint here in Group D.
I feel like Spire's inability to survive is really kind of the big point about that Horizon and how dangerous it can be. Up in the air, position given away. They know that there's going to be a dive, a push in towards one of the teams. Both teams are now aware of that. They're poised, they're positioned for the shots to come through, completely mow it down, and then down to the last two teams. And Brainrot, I mean, they've had some really, really good utility usage there. Some of those ordinances that have come out to create that space, the smokes to really obscure the vision. They've done a really good job of controlling that. So well done to them for, coming through in their this third lobby of the day.
But I think this game in particular paints a much bigger picture of how a lot of these teams are approaching this group stage, because that was just, that was a clinic in pacing for Apex, just because of how much of a hodgepodge that first 1.5 circles was. Let's be honest, just third party after fourth party after fifth party from some of these teams that are desperate for a KP, or hell, just have an ego from time to time, even some of these teams, and then resorting to that final four, understanding that taking space is very dangerous in that tail end, especially in a circle like that was so planar as well. Just in so much danger perpetually unless you go back to that home ground. Some teams having trouble doing that, some teams having trouble migrating through that, but in the end, one team coming on top, Brainrot 0 IQ, ending things with another third party. Big congratulations to them. It's something that they absolutely needed to give them that booster seat to get them to the grand finals. Hopefully it's enough of a cushion to keep them up, because again, there is still one more game here and there's no telling who could go down first in that.
Well, speaking of teams getting their booster seat, let's take a look at what the placings look like now after the third lobby of the day. And of course, we spoke a little bit about Singularity. They went down quite early on, and yet still managing to maintain that top spot. Of course, they're getting tons of kill points, and that's making such a huge difference. Remember, they were on 33 points in the previous one, so they must have taken out 6 squads, or no, 2 squads, or the equivalent thereof, plus the 1 point for their near top 10 place, and somehow still managing to, I think they're probably even a little bit surprised that they've maintained it. But of course, with one map left, with one lobby left, and with the difference in points being so incredibly close between our top 3 to 4 teams, this could be anybody's game.
It really is small right now, that pool with all the teams being here. My apologies for saying that there was some DCs, as there weren't. All Orglace pilots, Too Much Rush, they were here. Orglace able to get that first point of the group stage for themselves here. Might be too little too late, unfortunately, as now that we're coming to that final game, there is a sense of who is able to make it through and who is not. And again, there is a tiny cutoff. Only the top 5 teams from each of these 4 groups is making it to those grand finals. And now here in Group T, all 20 of these teams have only one more chance to do that.
Well, we spoke a little bit about community gaming and what they're all about, but did you know that they also have a questing system? And this allows you to earn rewards just for using the platform daily. Each day you'll be able to complete quests involving learning, competition, and social media actions to earn USDC rewards and more. Type !quest in the chat right now and follow the link to start earning rewards for your efforts today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a short break, and when we return, it is our 4th and final lobby of the group stages. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series for January. We have just finished our third lobby of the day as we head into our fourth and final lobby of the group stages. Tenric, what are you feeling? What are your thoughts about what we might be seeing and what we've seen so far?
I mean, now that we're down to this last game, you know, so many of these teams have very limited time to come up with the points that they need to make it to those finals. And again, only the top 5 teams make it. As of now, right now, that cutoff is 26 points. Nightmare Esports gatekeeping that top 5 spot. The closest below them, Team Inferno and Risen Rose right now, 5 behind each. The leaders right now, Singularity, Brainrot Zero IQ, Aspire Academy, the 3 victors so far this lobby. And, you know, I have no doubt that the team that wins this next lobby could also come away with that victory, depending on how well they've done throughout these past 3. But we'll have so much better of a picture going into things. But I think the big question is, how will volatility in this game be driven by the ring this time around? Because again, that final circle, very, very, very slow by the end of that, very planar, very flat. But between that, all the teams trying to get up there, all the teams trying to find those hot spots, third party again and again and again and again and again. Will that be a constant going into this 4th game? Or will a different circle, a different, potentially much safer final ring provide a bit more of a slower mid game for a lot of these teams?
Of course, bearing in mind, only 5 teams per lobby can make it through to the next round. 5 teams, and we already saw that top 5 spot is so closely contested. And the teams that are trying to make their way up, I mean, it could be that little bit more difficult to get the points needed to make their way through. So there's a lot of stakes here, a lot on the line, and I'm just kind of taking a look to see what's been happening in some of the other lobbies. I see that LFO Forever are still top of Lobby A with 68 points. Absolutely insane. Over in Lobby B, we've got Alliance Sigma on top with 55 points of their own. And over in Lobby C, our top scoring team with 50 points is F7 Clan. So it seems like there's a lot of competition across the board here in these lobbies.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of these teams, you know, much more dominant lobbies that we see in a lot of these qualifiers, where I think that's the ego that I think a lot of these teams in our lobby that we've gotten to see here in Group D have tried to have, where you think to yourself, man, watching all these names, our team owns this lobby. We can go hunt for as much KP as we want and then still come out on top game after game after game. And here in Group D, that just hasn't worked as well, Sam. A lot of these teams have been coming up against a wall, metaphorically, and sometimes literally, with that natural cover that a lot of these teams have ended up having to use, especially in those third parties. These maze end moments that a lot of these teams end up encountering in spots that normally are never, ever, ever contested. But again, nobody claimed drop spots going into any of these lobbies. Nobody really had as much of a formal introduction, and so sometimes there are just going to be some skirmishes out the gate, and indeed, Nightmare Esports, one of the teams that's going to have to overcome one.
Oh man, right off the drop, and the damage is absolutely
I think this is Orglis again.
Real. Oh, Nightmare in so much trouble now. Denze and Limic, the only ones alive. But Limic is so low on that HP and still fighting for his very life. But that shot just shuts him down. Flightless bird, as Nightmare are absolutely wiped from this server.
That was the first time I've ever seen this team in a fight.
Love to see
Good
it.
job, Orglis. Woo!
Well, somebody's getting it out of Redemption.
Oh, man. Good job, guys. That was great. A great knockdown shield usage for that final firefight, as close as can be, but Orglis makes it work, and they will win that contested drop spot, have a chance to make a beeline for some points, and in order to get to this grand final, they're gonna have to do a lot coming into this with 1 singular point total. They have just quadrupled that already, but they gotta find a whole lot more if they want to make these finals in time. And this drop spot, admittedly, while big and while contested, will not provide incredible loot out the gate. Luckily, though, there's going to be a lot of time for them to play with here, as a couple other of these teams just figuring out where they belong, and still definitely up for debate as well among a lot of these hot drops, where we just see there's just another team always around the corner. Oh my gosh, there's one right behind him. Are you kidding me?
It just never ends for these teams. Once again, round 1, we're down to only 15 squads. And I don't know. I think there's a thirst for blood here. And again, I mean, a lot of that comes down to the fact that they know that this is the last lobby, and there were only 4 lobbies. So it's very, very difficult to make sure that you're going to have enough points. You don't have as many opportunities. You know that one slight mistake could cost you dearly. It's so different from when you're doing like a team v team kind of game, as opposed to the battle royales. Is sometimes a few more opportunities in that regard, but here it really is, right? It's an absolute bloodbath, Hunger Games, and you have to take every single available opportunity for yourself. So already we're seeing another engagement coming out here as Incompetent 8 seems to be taking on another team here. See if they can get some damage in as the door does go down. One player already down. That's going to be the second. Clutch is the last one left alive here and is chasing that FMA Brotherhood. There will be no anime redemption arc.
Unfortunately, no. And yeah, that's FMA Brotherhood, unfortunately booted out of the tournament. They will not have enough points to progress forward. And Nightmare will have to settle on what they got so far, because they will not be able to grab any more points either. And so teams like Team Inferno, Risen Rose, NorCal, Revival that are still kicking might have a much better chance here. Incompetent Ape, the one remainder, is eliminated by another third party. And the wall has been fully taken over. Meanwhile, an Armory getting scoped out by one of those teams that is hovering around the gate-kept spot that has now fallen from Nightmare. Revival Games, a team that was able to make it to the most recent Challenger Cup finals and have a pretty solid display. It looks like we have an Antenna Gale Station third circle coming through. Literally one team in said third circle right now. Already the fish farm rotation done. Is squad really looking for that armory control. Meanwhile, the rest of the teams that are at least around this circle just satisfied with scoping out what few islands kind of occupied, and also I think much more ready for the occupation from that western end when all that movement in such an open space has to come through. NorCal gatekeeping against Spire, stuck in this armory at the moment. May choose to third party this or just camp it away, especially considering that that circle is now encroaching. But either way, solid spot. Looks like NorCal instead just going to settle for a Trident and hightail it. Yeah, hand this over to Spire, make them play edge.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we saw Spire in a zone engagement. And they're just going to keep up with that. Now, it really is just kind of the loot thing again, right? Round 1, it does so little damage. So they're going to take as much time as they can just to make sure that they can get maximum loot here before they start to rotate on in. And what was nice to see when we were looking at the larger map was how spread out things were. Now, of course, that doesn't really tell you much. Teams will very likely be moving in on each other very soon. And we can already see some pot shots being taken out here as teams try to gatekeep one another. But for the most part, there aren't any crazy engagements, you know, aside from the first couple that basically happened off drop. Teams definitely playing a little bit more safely. Again, realizing last chance for getting some of those points.
This is an important fight going on right now. BRZ currently out of contention up against Brainrot Zero IQ. Currently second on the leaderboard thanks to those placement points, but actually have the 5th highest KP rather than the 2nd highest out of this lobby so far. Not counting this game, of course. BRZ, if they lose this fight, that might have to happen, then they will also be out of contention. They need to last here, and so they will wait out the fight, launch a smoke down, and just make sure that they're cleared away, as they will also play this edge a little bit more. And already, we are seeing a bit more of a slower game where teams are accepting of the space that they have a lot more before the ring actually comes in. And then I feel that that when those circles start triggering, when those edges really start approaching, and obviously when the damage from said storm starts increasing much more, we'll see a lot more volatility in these games, or in these fights. But till then, yeah, it looks like all these teams have some solid looting paths to work with. Looks like Risen Rose has found some potential prey from the edge themselves here, though, on the northern end. Is so many teams rotating through. And it looks like that team is actually Brainrot Zero IQ, as Wi-Fi first will fall. And so now there's only 2 players left on this other team who rotated away from the fight with BRZ. Risen Rose, unfortunately, is only able to find 1 body for the time being, and so they will have to settle for that 1 additional KP. Perhaps searching for this opponent, but in reality, a lot of it is just sustainability inside that ring. Meanwhile,
I mean,
other fight happening in the circle itself.
Every little kill helps whittle away the numbers that you're eventually going to have to deal with later on. But yes, looks like we've got a couple of teams here in a little bit of an engagement themselves as well. A lot of cover to play with, a lot of areas to move around from to try and give yourself a better opportunity, a better vantage point. Not too much coming through from it just yet, as Dexican will go down eventually. But now it's just going to be the El Clasico Watson bunker setup. Those fences are going to come through to try and deny a little bit of sight and, of course, stop people from pushing on in without revealing their position. So whatever engagement was about to happen has massively slowed down. I think there's a bit of an elevation difference there. So both teams giving a little bit of room to breathe to the others. Now, again, we've got a little bit of a gate party situation here. Singularity are getting into an engagement, but a team right behind them as well. So need to be wary of the potential third party, although it does look like it might just be one player.
What? Is that an exhibit floating away? That's probably just a graphical glitch, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably.
Looks cool, though. That looks nice. That looks like something that, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson would, like, use in one of his shows. This is an exhibit.
Brain rot are
just
down.
levitating above him, like he's on Cosmos.
Oh my God.
But yeah, Team Orglis, the team that was approaching from that front side, and now Team Singularity has to take a step back from for this engagement. But a lot of neutral fighting coming through. Rampage, I didn't touch on this, and I suppose I will now. Heavy mags are in rotation, but heavy weapons are kind of a little bit sparse in the meta right now, just because Rampage is, you know, currently not on the floor, and Wingman switched to sniper ammo. The flatline tends to be a pretty go-to option, as well as Prowler for more short-range confrontations. But I don't know, man. The 30-30 hasn't really been as popular as it was, and a lot of these other weapons, unfortunately, not finding too much ground. A Singularity finally gonna press that trigger on the other end. Well, two VTubers, one Femboy gets the other end. Team Orglis will finally fall, and unfortunately, that doesn't mean the end of their tournament run. Two VTubers, one Femboy out of one frying pan and into the fire over here, as they are still searching for the KP they need to make sure that they keep their spot in this top 5, and it's up against another team that is also in that top 5, Inspire. A Singularity will actually fall now. And so their spot is locked.
They finally got it into top 10, but not very far into top 10. They go out in 8th position, but that is an extra point, and I'm sure they got themselves a fair amount of kill points to try and bolster that a little bit there. I suspect they'll still be fine for at least the top 5, and of course that is the main thing you want in this group stage. First place is not the most important part. Seeding is not a thing. So that's really unimportant. You just want that top 5 placement for now, and I believe they will have secured that for themselves. We're down to the last 7 squads here, as Silent, who has been so good on this team, just continues to pepper away and actually manages to get a knock. And that is why flying in the sky can be so dangerous. You are a moving target out in the open, but Silent has no fear, will fly himself and not get spotted out. Spots out a player. They're going to try and clean up a little bit here. And this movement is so clean, so solid, as Silent is able to get yet another kill. And they're just on an absolute rampage, down to only 6 squads left. And round 2 is only closing now.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about when we talk about that rotation that comes through onto Antenna. Everyone was kind of slowly waiting for it. Hambino on the runaway is 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy is still technically alive, but once again, it is alive in just 1 singular rat. Hambino might actually head back to Blur Flavors' death box to pick up this card and head over to a beacon, because there are 1 or 2 available. And again, that mobile respawn beacon is in crafting rotation, so Hambino could theoretically find a better cover spot behind a lot of these big rocks, as the circle will depend on Gale Station instead of Antenna. And so again, a lot of movement needs to come through very, very quickly. Hambino might have a chance of having a full team in this final fight. Risen Rose still has their full team in this final fight, as they will finally make their way into this circle and don't have too much they need to encounter right out the gate. I mean, this is a great little immediate blockage that they, I imagine, will use effectively enough to at least get to a top 5 placement again here. Risen Rose, definitely, I think, a team that is guaranteed their spot into the grand finals by this point. But hey, get a cherry on top of that. Why won't you?
Good vantage point to try and catch some information, as well as the teams start to kind of circle around one another. get closer and closer towards each other. Pot shots getting fired off as per usual. It does give away some positioning, and sometimes you might want to be quiet and rather just watch and see what you can learn. But if you can whittle away some of those resources, it does tend to make that final engagement a little bit easier if you can just do a little bit of cleanup, particularly if you manage to come in as a third party. And speaking of, I'll never forget, I once worked an event where Shiv was a analyst, and we asked him... Yeah, we asked him, you know, third party is such a big thing. Like, what do you do about third parties? And he was just like, just try to survive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do,
what
really,
it boils
isn't
down
it?
to, yeah. And it's so tough. Like,
just don't die,
I think
lol.
that's the worst part. Yeah, like there's no strategy to it. You just don't die. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that teams really have to wrestle with in a game like this. But looking at how the map is placing out now, seems like this team here up on the high ground could be in quite a bit of danger, sandwiched in between a few other teams, blocked off by a rolling thunder, and potentially in a whole heap of danger.
Yeah, Circle confirmed a parabola of teams among them. Nobody in the optimal position, but a lot of teams in a suboptimal position as the Gibby bubble gets thrown down that will protect them at first here, as BRZ unfortunately will lose one before the fight's even really done, but so much residual damage. They'll be able to take two now. It's just down to this last, but Bill is low. Inferno will fall first, but Risen Rose comes in for one of the easiest third parties they've ever played for. BRZ eliminated, but now they're not alone either, and Risen Rose has to play this corner. It's a fourth and fifth party having simultaneously, as Trev and Plug Cube now have to fill in for the gaps. And other ults start coming in on this very edge of the circle. Once again, 4 squads, firefight galore. That Skull Piercer gone, and we're down to 3.
3 complete squads, and that might have been a perfect opportunity for a third party, or so one would think, but Risen Rose come through that relatively unscathed, so any team that had tried that may have wound up in danger. Now, this rotation in from zone could be devastating as these players are so dangerously low HP. It's the perfect opportunity for Risen Rose to clean them out, but there's another team circling in from the other side. It's absolute chaos as the shots just get peppered through. 2v2 as one Femboy actually looking to survive here, despite the fact that they were so low on HP. They're coming out strong. They're coming up huge, and they managed to wipe out Risen Rose. But here comes Spire running in from the other side, but it's taking them too long. Somehow enough time to start getting those shields and the HP back up, but not gonna leave it too long. Instantly starting to engage in, don't want to give them the opportunity, and it's silent again with a disgusting amount of damage to start it off.
And the black hole thrown in on top of that to make sure still no approach onto that front line with those death boxes. Horizon Q reactively here as 2v1F knows that their days are absolutely numbered. On top of that, the Q thrown in from the Horizon into the Rolling Thunder, and now no pylon available. That's going to be one member of Spire down. Netty's low. Netty's down too. It's just down to Aragu. Red Shields can't help, but they're all burned down. And 2 versus 1 Femboy is going to clutch things out after Hambino had to rat it to a respawn beacon approach onto a successful 6 party from Risen Rose, and then not even fully health or heal themselves back up for the reapproach from Spire, and yet they took every single one of those fights. A bevy of KP to come their way, and the best part about it, Sam, they didn't even need it all. They were already in the top 5. They were already good enough to make it through, and yet, they just needed to be better this time around. They are going to be the victors here in game number 4.
I think the best part about it was that it was ended with a melee.
Oh my god, it was. Oh my
Punch
god.
to the face, just to like, you know, it's about sending a message.
Oh yeah.
Just phenomenal stuff there, right? Like you said, you know, I was watching them start their approach in, and of course at that point the zone does a lot more damage, so they're slowly being chunked away. They're about to run into Risen Rose. Spire are busy rotating in from the other side, and you start to think, oh man, this is likely gonna be a Spire victory. You know, you start to think, okay, Risen Rose, they're probably gonna take out this team and then take a bit of damage in the process, but then Spire will come in and clean it up, right? So that's like your kind of logical thought process there, and it just goes completely the opposite direction. So really, really well played there. Again, it's the style points, and it's about sending a message, I guess.
Oh man, yeah, that really impressive stuff coming out from 2v1F. But a couple really important things going into that game, I think, namely the fact that Nightmare Esports fell so early to Team Orgless in that contest, and so they were booted out of the top 5, unfortunately. They were trying to keep that up, but it's Risen Rose that made it far enough into that top 3 to crack open that spot. Well, let's look at the entire scoreboard for that Group D in its entirety, as all those teams have their final scores, unfortunately, to unable to get everything up as we get those graphics ready. But yeah, a couple other teams still in these lobbies. So the grand finals full competitive list has yet to be fully determined, but LFO Forever, I think we can call them a solid lock here for Group A, as those games are indeed complete among the FA Decimators, LFO, TKC, and Papoga.
I think all of our lobbies except for C are done and dusted. So we'll go through what we have, and then hopefully by then we'll have a little bit more. So for now, LFO Forever, FA Decimators, LFO, TKC, and Papoga will be our top 5 from Group A. Unfortunately, commiserations to the other 15 teams in that lobby. But look at those final points. 89 points for LFO Forever. That is a 30-point difference from the second place team. That's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, Papoga and Halo boys, unfortunately, having to come down to that tiebreaker. Papoga having the better result. Of course, the same rule set for those stipulations as the ALGS as well. The tiebreakers come down to your best performance on a match, then your second, then your third, then your fourth, and so on. So Papoga coming out on top there. Now we head over to Group B. It is Alliance Sigma that kept their dominant spot all the way up to 84 points. Vermouth keeping their spot alive just barely. No Reply, Project Armor, and Beers rounding out the group.
Yeah, that's actually a great team name. I'm not gonna lie, Beers. I like
Beers.
that. But yeah, 20-point deficit here on Group B side. Okay, it's not the 30 points of Group A, but it's definitely not something to turn your nose up at. A really, really solid one. It came down to the wire between 5th and 6th place. Only a 2-point differential between those two. So it really could have gone either way. And congratulations again to our top 5 from this one. We will see them in the grand finals a little bit later, and commiserations to our bottom 15 teams. Now we're heading into Group D, taking a look, and it's 2v1F that managed to snag the top spot towards the end there. Team Singularity still at a respectable second place. They maintained that first place for 3 lobbies, so really, really well played there. Spire Academy going to come in third with the 43. Brainrot Zero IQ, who were performing incredibly well with 37, and Risen Rose with 34. Fantastic performance here from our top 5 teams, and honestly, it wasn't even close. Team Inferno at 27 points. It was reasonably close, but it would have been difficult to close that gap. So a very, very clear top 5 from our group team.
Something really impressive that needs to be mentioned is the KP spread from that final game. It was really even all the way across. In fact, every single team in the top 11 placements from this previous lobby, from that final game, got at least 1 kill. That is a really impressive spread that you don't normally get to encounter. And it meant a lot of crazy, strange upsets coming from nowhere. And also a couple teams just getting that extra springboard forward. Big congrats to 2v1F for clinching that top spot. But of course, that matters not by this point. What matters is that you made that top 5, and 5 teams from each of these groups have. They will be headed to that grand final. Still waiting on the confirmation or that final game from Group C to finish up. But as of now, the deficit between 5th and 6th place is 9 points strong. And the deficit between the top 3 and 4th and 5th is currently about 10 points. So some big gaps that have a little bit of fill-in to do here in Group C.
Speaking of fill-in, we've got about a minute until we have that graphic. So I want to kind of get a feel from you, looking at the 15 out of 20 so far that we have for our grand final. What do you think about those results? Was that kind of resonating with what you'd expected? Were there any big surprises that you thought came through here?
I'm really amazed at how much a lot of these teams that kind of came in as, you know, FA amalgamations and especially a couple scrim teams just outshone a lot of CC teams and LCQ teams, and it seems to have actually been in like ALGS games like Godfire, like Nightmare. You know, a good couple teams that had some kind of disappointing showings today, I can't lie. But on the other end of that, some of these teams really showing out, including those Group C teams, which I believe we just finished up for. So we'll have those finishes soon. Game 4 for reference, Leave No Witness G got 30 points in that final game to give them a total
Wow.
of 76, topping out the group. What a last game for them.
Jeez, that's what we in the business call a life game. Wow, a 26-point deficit there is absolutely massive. So we have Leave No Witness G joining our finals teams along with F7 Clan at 50 points, lowest entropy at 41. Triaduli plus 41 points and 60 FPS, which is the God FPS, as everyone knows, at 31 points. But again, very, very close. That 6th position, only 3 points behind. Really, really could have gone either way. So there you have it, folks. We have our top 20 teams from our group stages, our top teams that we will be seeing in the finals a little bit later this evening. We are going to take a little bit of a break before we head into our grand final. Give you guys a moment, get a drink and get yourself ready mentally for what is to come. Before we do that, everybody, the questing system, if you like auto battle games, then well, Community Gaming's has just the thing for you. They've partnered with Planet Mojo to bring you a $5,000 Mojo Brawl. Let me say that again. $5,000. All right, if you're into auto battles, this is the place for you. Planet Mojo is a Web3 auto battler platform being built by a team of gaming industry veterans. So it's a pretty new game, something to learn, something to experience, and of course, some cash on the line to win. The open qualifiers for the Mojo Bowl begin February 4th and 5th, and the closed qualifiers and finals will be on February 11th and 12th. To sign up or just for more information, you can go ahead and type !Planet Mojo in the chat. Definitely go check it out if that is your speed. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, it's time for the finals.
Greetings, traveler. You look weary of your efforts going unrewarded. There's no shortage of spoils to be had. Stick with me and claim what is rightfully yours.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Community Gaming Apex Legends Monthly Series January. We're finally here. We're heading into the finals. We have our top 20 teams who will be fighting it out for the lion's share of $1,000. That is quite a bit of cash. And bearing in mind, I believe it's the top 8. Even if you're not in the top 3 or 4, you still will get a little bit of something. So, there's that kind of consolation. If you could at least breach that top 8 position, then you'll get something for your troubles. But of course, you want to come in that first place. You want to get that lion's share. So looking forward to seeing which team is going to come out on top of that one. And it looks like we could have some seriously fierce competition. If the scores from the previous from the group stages are anything to go by, it looks like it's going to be spicy.
Yeah, let's once again take a look at these 4 previous lobbies, because 5 teams is not that much, but it's 5 teams that have all already played against each other in 4 lobbies just now. And now here they all are from those respective lobbies all coming together. We, of course, followed the Group D teams. So that would be 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy, Team Singularity, Spire Academy, Brainrod Zero IQ, and Risen Rose. But along with that, we have teams that had a much bigger disparity in point totals on the other lobbies. LFO Forever having 89 points total. That's 30 above second place previously, like we talked about. Group B, Alliance Sigma, 20 points ahead of No Reply in second place. And Group C, Leave No Witness G, 26 points ahead of second place. And so some real titans, theoretically, coming into the fray. But now we have a slew of new interactions that we have to wait for. And also, we're going back to World's Edge first in order to find out the first ones.
Yeah. And of course, so we have some more potential shenanigans with drop spots. As we spoke about a little bit earlier on, some of these teams might not be as established. They might not, when I say that, I mean like with other teams. So you might not know as much about them, but also they might not have necessarily fleshed out their own identity as a team. So we could be seeing a lot of off-drop hits. And again, our final is only 4 lobbies. So gonna get a little bit hectic. Just a little bit of a reminder for you folks, the crafting rotation, the daily and weekly. We did discuss that a little bit earlier on. And of course, where all of your hot zones are, where we could potentially be seeing some of those early engagements off of drop.
Yeah, a couple hot drops that we've seen be the favorites for some of these teams. And of course, some of these players have claimed these drops in the past. But again, it should be stated that the claims for a lot of these lobbies have been kind of piecemeal and touch and go. So some of these teams may be walking into sites that they don't know another team may be on, that they are not aware is also getting dropped towards until, hey, they drop there. And so a lot of commitment has to be braced, at least in this first game. It's going to be, there's going to be a little bit of luck involved, I got to admit. The potential for 2 teams to intersect and, from then on for one team to relinquish that spot after, or to eco that decision and then try and, get the win with the wipe on that spot the following game. A lot of opportunities, but also very few games to execute upon them. So in this little microcosm, like you said, 8 teams coming out with this prize pool, but only 1 team coming out on top.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing, of course, we keep bringing it back to this, but it is such an important aspect of the only 4 games, the only 4 lobbies, and that really does impact a lot of how teams play. We saw it a few times in the group stages, right? It does cause a lot of teams to be that little bit more aggressive, to take a few more risks, to try and get as many kill points as possible. Now, instead of teams focusing a lot on their placements per se, you're seeing a lot more of the attempts at kills so that you can rack up as many points as possible because you won't have a lot of opportunities. So that has definitely changed the pacing of the game. I must admit, I quite like it. The last time that I was heavily invested in the Apex scene, prior to like now, obviously I'm getting back into it, but way back then it was during the Wattson meta, where you would have 20 teams that dropped and set up a bunker. And it took about 20 minutes before any action started. So for me, this is such a fun thing to watch, but of course it can be very, very stressful for some of our teams as well. But I hear that our first lobby is just about ready. So tell me, Tenrek, what are you expecting? Looking at the teams that we have, what are your predictions?
Oh, man. I'm expecting a lot of rats, Sam. I can't lie. I'm expecting a lot of rats. I am so ready for so many of these teams to somehow find a way out of the fight a little bit early, albeit after they lose a little bit along the way. We've already seen that a couple times in our Group D lobby, but I feel with World's Edge, with so many teams going to be chomping at the bit for these third parties, and a lot of the teams being maybe perhaps a little bit trigger happy and opting to maybe third party a little preemptively. I feel like there's going to be a lot of tiny little windows, little moments where you can, you know, Ash Portal, as we've seen some teams make the choice of. You can obviously Skyward dive back out, throw a castle wall down, throw a mobile shield down, and get out of there. So many ways for a lot of players, I think, to just abandon ship, head over to a different POI, maybe find a respawn beacon if they're lucky, maybe craft one if they have to. But either way, I think there's going to be a lot of different ways for teams to survive on just one player for a much longer period of time. And Risen Rose may have to be one of the first teams forced to do that, as TKC is going to win this initial duel at Thermal Station.
Well, still got a player, at least one player alive somewhere out in the ether, attempting to maintain, as we haven't lost a squad yet. I see there's another fight happening as well. So already off of drop, we're having teams contesting each other's drops, trying to survive. Oh, Zanya and Estes, man, that is a throwback for me. Again, one of these kind of OG players. They were part of the old LG team way back in the day. Really cool to see them here still performing. Estes, you know what? I love Estes purely because female gamer, you know, absolute representation here. Love to see it. She's always been an incredible player. So glad to see that she's still around and still kicking ass, as it were.
Yeah, great to see that, along with that crypto in the meta that's been driving up. It's funny, you said that you're coming back into Apex at a great time. I count myself lucky because I'm just starting to get into casting Apex more frequently at like the perfect time when like Bangalore and crypto are like the rising stars in the meta right now. You told anybody that a year ago, they would laugh at you so hard. But
unless it was Shiv.
Unless it was Shiv, obviously, yeah. But yeah, so many new things happening in this meta, and I love watching all the experimentation, especially with the LCQ, and of course the Split 1 playoffs coming soon. Those benchmarks are about to be completely changed if, you know, some team comes out with a crazy niche or off-meta pick. Here's Leave No Witness G, a team that we had that had an astounding performance in their final game in their own group, which I believe was Group C, having to fight it out over here on Skyhook, and Panic already falling. Unfortunately, a lot of gameplay that they have to worry about with these doors, but a little bit of intel thanks to Rena, and Lowest Entropy will be finished off here. Leave No Witness G, one casualty in the firefight, but should be able to find a mobile respawn beacon pretty easily and get this back on. Oh, never mind. No, excuse me. My eyes deceived me. Panic was fine. And Leave No Witness G comes out now with 17 squads remaining and a lot of control over Skyhook right now.
Yeah, that UI can be really confusing because while mid-res, it looks very similar.
Yeah,
it's got that green, looks very similar to Dead. I get you. And it's really funny, like you mentioned, you know, Bangalore coming into the meta and getting a bit more playtime. When I started, like the original meta of Apex Legends was like Gibby, Bangalore, and Wraith.
Right, yeah, it's, oh man, what a time.
And I love that I love how well Respawn do at giving all legends a chance, right? It really does. It rotates quite a bit. Like Gibby had a lot of playtime when they really buffed his shield, and Caustic as well, right? Like Caustic was really strong early on, and then he had some big nerfs, but now he's starting to come out again. And there it is. There's the rat. I knew that they somehow
they got out.
They had one player left alive. But of course, you can see no real looting has been done. Not able to get those shields back up.
Oh my
when
god!
I say shields back out, like there's nothing there to try and use. And yes, very unlikely to get noticed while chilling there.
Oh man, Hambino caught out here against Papoga 2v1F. After having a really great last game as well in Group D, it looks like they may get burned down, but the BH ult comes out again, and Papoga is just down to 1 now in Streamy. I swear, this BH pick coming through from Blur Flavors has been, or excuse me, from Zura, has been everything for this team to tack on to the Blur and Hambino combo that we normally see, but now comes F7 to third party in on a 3v2, and with that verticality, it looks like 2v1F is already trying to abandon ship. No reply, going to take the first elimination, and F7 clan just going to jump in on poor Hambino, the one corpse that they can access much more easily, and 2 VTubers, 1 femboy, gonna have to opt to head to a different POI, and unfortunately do it without Hambino.
Already the scuffles have begun, but you can definitely feel the difference between the group stage and the finals here. Yes, okay, we are 6 squads down, but it hasn't been quite as insane, I suppose. as some of the earlier games that we saw. There's definitely a lot more restraint. There's definitely a lot more intent as well. So it's cool to see. Obviously, as you get into the finals, things start to get that little bit more serious, right? In the group stages, it didn't matter about topping out the leaderboard, right? There's no such thing as seeding. That doesn't come into play. It's all about that top 5 spot. So teams can be a little bit more relaxed. Not massively. You still want that top 5. But you're not pushing as hard now when you're in the finals and you know that you have fewer opportunities. Oh my god,
It's such a good rat spot. That is so good.
It's unreal. But when the circle starts to come in, that's when things could get a little bit spicy. But the thing is, though, you could realistically sit there and hit a top 10 place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I feel like Risen Rose can easily get a top 10 here, but here's my problem is I feel like this attitude that you talked about is going to waver very soon. Because this circle, from what I can tell, from what I can see, is favoring, like, Frag East, Ridge, and Tunnel. Like, it is looking to be a very sparse circle when it comes to cover. There are going to be very minimal buildings, a couple tunnels, a lot of ridges that these teams are going to have to play with. And also just a lot of forced entry. There are going to be so many moments where a team is going to be like, okay, let's go. And unfortunately, one of them cannot be lucky as Blur Flavor is going to burn that down, and 2v1F able to find one through. Meanwhile, F7 also on the hunt and is going to get rid of one, but 2v1F is traded away, and the 2v3 will not come into fruition. You're down to our final 13 here in the first game of the lobby.
Slowly but surely whittling away at the few teams that still remain here. And obviously, we know that there's at least one rat. But it seems there's quite a few players. I think about 3 players that are no longer in this lobby, and it looks like that number is about to increase. Black Hole coming through there, denying a lot of movement, and yes, lost. It seems that a team has just been deleted. As a race is going to come through here. Now they're going to have to move out of the zone fairly soon, but it is of course a round 2 zone, so it's not going to do the most damage in the world. Oh no. Oh no, don't die.
Oh no.
Oh no, don't die. Oh, we pulled away at the wrong time. Will he live? Find out next time.
I love that mystery factor sometimes that observers give us. It's great. Because then we'll see a team like 2v1F did in the previous game that we watched. Woo! Singularity burned away by TKC. At least one member down in Artie. But this fight still raging on, and in fact, could be another third party while... Yeah, Pluck Cube just chills out. Yeah, I mean, what reason do they have to move at this point? White Shield be damned. Fight right next to him be damned. No one's going to find him right now. Don't have to worry about it. And top 10 is like right on their fingertips. Absolutely commit to this rat.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get a couple of points for yourself just by surviving for as long as possible, you'll take it. Because trying to take fights now doesn't make sense, right? No weaponry, not able to heal up. Because you could see there was like a sliver of health missing there. Not able to upgrade the shielding, so just chill out and don't stress too much. Unfortunately, now Singularity man down. Gonna make things a little bit tougher for them to survive into these next few engagements. You're always going to be at a massive deficit if you're man down against full squads. And they're constantly being forced to keep rotating, and they're so split off from one another. I mean, getting back together is going to be tough. They have to move through such an open area, and it has been quite locked down. And speaking of lockdown, we have the potential here for another third, fourth party, as we have 3 teams angling in towards one another with a 4th that seem to be coming in from the high ground.
I love this about this World's Edge game as well, is because the circle's so dangerous, most of these teams are still worried about the rotation from the previous circle. A lot of them are stuck in these spots like Harvester and now like Geyser, where the people who win are still going to have to move. The teams who become victorious here are not going to be able to, revel in it for very long. F7 has the help of this exhibit for now, but they can't really do too much with it because this building doesn't necessarily provide the best ground for them. They're playing from the lower area, and Ray is actually going to get burned away to flesh before they even exit here, and it's going to happen again. F7 forced to throw down that Jibby shield to move to a different building to observe to avoid the onslaught coming from the other end in Blast, Locky, and Light before they eventually also rotate away from Geyser because they're not in the best position either, and this ridge provides good cover for their eventual foray into the circle itself.
But I like this. A little bit of damage. Realize you might not be able to win that fight. Pull back, retreat, get to a safe spot. Live to fight another day. I think that's the smartest position that you can take right now. You know, take a page out of Plug Cube's book, you know? Just hide. Oh my god, that damage is nasty from blasts.
And this is LFO Forever, the team that got the most points out of any team across any of these qualifier lobbies. A dangerous squad walking into a dangerous situation, actually, as their opponents are walking into a much more dense area of this circle, as all the teams have seemingly simultaneously made the choice to head into circle, but nothing really in range of LFO Forever except a little bit of distance play that, of course, all three of these players are going to try and use to the best of their ability in order to find that red shield ASAP. The H out early here from Blasts is a couple rotations forced to come through from F7 and Beers, the latter of which will be destroyed early on, but it's Singularity also fighting Brain Rot. Is now in comes LFO and get a couple downs along the way. Squad wipe almost finished, and it's Leave No Witness G, another #1 from a different group that are the victims of the other side, and that's top 10. Risen Rose has that placement point, that consolation prize at least. But now the pressure's on. The rotation has to come in as Plug Cube is no longer safe in this circle. LFO Forever also is not safe. They will have to move in, especially through this corridor. That's going to be tough. Brainrod Zero IQ seemingly stuck between two fragmented squads at the moment as well.
I wonder if we could maybe get the big map up for just a moment so I can have a look at where Plug Cube is. I'd be really, really curious to see if there's any sort of like rotational possibility. But also, I wonder if he could snag loot on the way in. Wouldn't that be absolutely amazing?
Oh, they're walking into another rat. That's...
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing.
Dude.
Rat on rat violence. And look how slow he's walking as well. He's like, where are they? Where are they? Where are they?
It only has
so
one
good,
path
man.
in here unless you travel around the entire northern edge, which actually might be the better idea here for Cube, but I don't think they know that. Also, I don't think they have the time either, is the hard part here, just because this next circle is coming in less than a minute in Cube. Yeah, we'll not have that time to scope out all that extra territory, but look at this northern edge over here next to Siphon and Geyser. Everyone is here, but the fights haven't started yet because everyone's still around these buildings, but oh, it's brimming.
And Artie's in trouble as well because he's a rat in the midst of about 3 teams.
Oh, yeah.
In that northern area. Like, he is in trouble. Oh, man.
Oh, this is awesome. This is great, dude. Literally walking.
So bad for him, though. Okay, now he's figured out. He's like, ah, yeah, we're chilling. We chilling. Oh, no.
They unbind auto sprint for that?
As he comes around the corner, he's just gonna get absolutely deleted, and I think that's the worst part.
Oh man, in comes the rotations to this circle, and it's much more filled up than the previous games we've seen. The skill level clearly increased, and now we're up to 9 squads instead. Is LFO Forever once again on the hunt for blood? They want to get this started early. They want to get this leg up as soon as possible, and they proved last lobby that they have the resources to do it, but launched on by a charge rifle, among other things, will bring blasts and light down to flesh. So they'll be forced to reconsider, at least for the time being, find some better cover to work with, and understand that this is much harder than they may be let on at first.
Oh no! No, the 2 rats!
Oh, it's a duel between 2 rats! 1v1, let's go! Oh, Cube is in such a bad spot, though. Truman has such a better spot.
He's in danger.
Oh, but in comes LFO too. Truman's already being fired upon. Both rats are gone. Both rats are about to be gone. Truman's so low, still surviving somehow. There it goes. Vermouth is gone too, and we're down to 7.
I'm sure there's still 2 more rats, though. I'm sure Artie is still alive, and there was 6th and 5th that was also still ratting around somewhere. So I'm sure we'll catch up with them a little bit later on. Oh man, that's so sad. It's really funny that they did actually wind up running into one another, but like QB had the god spot for the longest time. Unfortunately, towards the end there, the worst possible rotation inwards. As Sigma, Alliance Sigma, also taken out of the running here in this first lobby.
I think that might have been another rat potentially. I don't know though.
It could have been, yeah. I think that was one of the rats.
Yeah. All right. Well, oh yeah, it was. Oh yeah, all the rats are gone now. I think. Maybe. Unless it's different amounts of personnel on different teams. Well, I'm just wondering if it's Oh, yeah, never mind. It couldn't be any other way. I'm dumb. My math was bad for a second there.
Never do maths on stream.
Yeah, I'll never do math on stream again. All right, LFL, once again attempting to approach through bridge here. They are just so hungry every time, but it's warranted because they have one of the longest rotations through into a circle that is filled to the brim with full squads at this point. So they got to take it super seriously, and they do end up having to eventually take this fight. And Blast is going to get the first kill on it. Then comes the high ground taking, and they steal that just as easily, too. A dually falls, and no one from LFO falls with them. It's a clean sweep, and now the kill leader sits among them as well. 5 squads remaining.
I'll be real, I didn't even realize how many players that I know are in this, like, tournament. I'm a big Blast fan. Really cool to see him playing here as well. And kill leader as well. Go off, King. Great performance here. But down to last 5 squads. They all start moving in towards one another. Oh, this is interesting. I like the positions here. You know, a couple of teams have got something akin to a moat, a giant chasm that blocks off some of the other teams. So as teams start to rotate in, it's the rotating teams who are going to find themselves on the back foot here. You can already see some of those pot shots getting fired out, but bearing in mind that there are more teams on that island that could very well go in for that potential third party.
Project Armor using that crypto drone to scope out everything, and that EMP is ready. Could be huge for this final firefight that I imagine will not be with just one squad. Rolling Thunder on the building directly near them. As LFO Forever is now in the circle, and in comes the ult from Blast right out the gate. As the Beast needs to find a new home, but this one's Occupado, and Blast's forced to rotate back over with the rest of the squad to make sure that this approach, which will eventually have to come, is strong enough. But until then, they're looking much worse for wear, and a lot of this BH ult is already gone. The Kraber online in this short fight as well. This could be dangerous unless the nades are used effectively, and that's a stick to get things started into the door breach, into the black market lineup. Blast slow thanks to the Nox gas. A lot of damage done along the way though, but it's just down to Locky. It doesn't matter though. They still get it done, and Brain Rot falls. But the potential third party could come through right now, and indeed it does from Project Armor. LFO Forever is after right out. Now we're down to 3 squads.
Oh, geez, and it gets closer and closer, right? That ring continues to push in, forcing these teams closer and closer together. Looks like we've got one team missing a player as well. No. It was just, the name was hidden behind the rest of the players. There you go. Very, very low HP. But yeah, it starts to become that difficult position here as teams continue firing those pot shots. Oh, Estes taken out. From it almost felt like that went through the wall. That positioning was so good, she just could not get away. And Zanya close to follow at this point. Kaz is the only one with the decent HP at the moment. Zanya might be able to... No! Shut down! But at the same time, Kaz will be able to get a kill for himself as well. So return fire is good. But he's not going to be able to get his teammate up. This is going to be so devastating for Project Armor as we get down to the last few players. And the other 2 teams are still full squad. No, there's still another player missing on another team as well. But of course, it's F7 Clan who are firmly in control of this lobby. No!
Oh my god, it's F7 just versus 1. This is F7's game.
It's 3v1. I mean, you know what? I believe.
You know what? It could happen. Oh, stuck in the corner though. The tree providing the natural cover, and F7 waltzes right in, takes the W against the final 2 rats. A chaotic final circle for sure, but it was F7 that managed the better sightlines along the entire way, and that's why we saw less of them, just because engagement is a last priority among that last circle for some people. Sometimes you just don't need those KP, and F7's one of those teams sitting in 2nd place thanks to that W along with the 6 KP that they were able to accrue for that.
Yeah, I mean, a team in a final, it's going to be very difficult for one team to accumulate the lion's share of kills, to be coming out with like 10 plus kills, right? To the point where it makes placement less important. So if you can make sure that you're getting that placement, even if you get maybe 1 or 2 kills towards the end there, you know that the other teams, the kills should be fairly evenly dispersed amongst them. So if you're getting that top spot in the lobby, then 9 times out of 10, you are confirming yourself the top spot on the overall leaderboard. That's what F7 do. They play a little bit more safe. They make sure that they have the right sight lines towards the end there, the right amount of cover, and they do come out on top of that lobby. But let's see if my theory is correct. We have our scoreboard ready to go, and we can see if they do, in fact, manage to top out the leaderboard or if there was a team that managed to snipe them with kills. And yes, there is LFO Forever with 19 points at the end of that lobby. What a performance from that team. And of course, that's my Blasts team, so you know they had a lot of kills.
14 to be exact.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. That is almost a quarter of the lobby. Wow. LFO Forever. What a display. Hey, again, they came into this with the highest point total from the entire from this entire qualifier series, coming in from Group A, and I'm just looking at which ones they won. So their records going into this on World's Edge previously was another 14 kill game that came on top of a first place finish, so that gave them 26. And then they ended up getting second in the second game with 10 kills, which gave him 19 points. And then after that, Storm Point was just as consistent. They took third in both games, got 23 and then 21. I mean, they have showed out every single time. And this one, while being a slightly lower scoring game than what they are normally used to, it is still absolutely supremely impressive and a great start to the series. But you know, F7 getting that first place finish among other teams that we have yet to mention. So sorry, I'm just heading back over to that graphic. You know, teams like Project Armor, like TKC, Alliance, Sigma, Brain Rot, Zero IQ in particular, who came out with a really great sneak play as well. So many teams still in this fray for these next three games. Excuse me.
Well, remind everybody, this $1,000 Apex Legends monthly series is brought to you by Community Gaming. Provide a tournament platform for games like Valorant, EVO, Hearthstone, and many more. They also support a wide variety of grassroots tournaments, offering tools and guidance to organizers to help supercharge their events. Head on over to communitygaming.io to learn more. Now, folks, we're going to take a short break. When we return, we will have lobby number 2 and our last stint on World's Edge. Welcome back once again, everyone, to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series here in January, the start of 2023, and it is off to an absolute bang. LFO Forever coming out on top. Let's get that leaderboard graphic up one more time. We could take a look, just get a little bit of a refresher before we jump into Lobby 2. And yes, LFO Forever coming through with 14 kills in that last lobby. Absolutely unreal, but it was F7 Clan that came out on top. Looking forward to seeing what these teams are going to bring for us here on our second lobby.
Yeah, second time to World's Edge, the final time here for the tournament itself. So one more chance for these teams that may shine on it to really show out. And of course, with this first game, there is a bigger disparity than normal, but this second game, I think, will be a great way for us to see which teams will really be in contention, because at this point, with only 4 games to go, we'll be halfway through after this lobby, after this next game on World's Edge has concluded. And only 8 teams are going to be able to get a piece of that prize pool, and so I think we'll get an idea of who may be in range for that by the time we get our next victor.
Yeah, bearing in mind, of course, $1,000 is our prize pool. It's quite a little bit of cash there for these players, and I'm looking forward to seeing, what comes out into our next lobby. Like we said, this first lobby, it was definitely a different feel pacing-wise from what we'd seen during the group stages. There's definitely an air of more kind of seriousness, an air of more, not necessarily urgency, but understanding that, it's kind of that last chance saloon situation. Only 3 lobbies left there for these teams to maximize their point potential and try to come out on top. So looking to some of these teams to see if they can perform a little bit better. One of the teams that I'm really looking to, for example, Singularity, had a really great start to the day, first place in the first lobby of the day, but things started to take a bit of a turn downhill after that. And I think that there's quite a few teams that really fit into that description as well. Of course, I'm keeping my eyes on Project Armor as well. A really, really solid and strong team as we come here onto, once again, ladies and gentlemen, our second lobby of the finals.
Not too many drop spots were contested out the gate here. And in fact, there was a good amount of hesitation among teams for this previous lobby. A lot more respect, I think, from team to team. Far fewer egos. Far fewer Preds from week 1 of ranked in this lobby at the moment. Shout out Olympus going down. RIP. But in the meantime,
you can stay there.
Yeah, honestly, I was playing through Broken Moon so much. Which, speaking of which, should be in a second here, as Project Armor has gotten into its fight finally here on the contested spot. Looks like they're having a little bit of a better time with it, and indeed, yeah, F8 Decimator's gonna fall pretty quickly. Armor only losing 1 in the fight so far, and Kazakh quickly rest back up. So that's that drop spot taken up. But it should be mentioned, starting next month, Broken Moon will be replacing World's Edge actually in this particular pool.
Oh.
So a big farewell actually to the community gaming monthly series, as we will not be seeing World's Edge next time around here. In the meantime, though, I was just gonna say, I was playing Broken Moon, and I was just so ready to get either World's Edge or Stormpoint, because I was like, I'm really gonna bear down and play like some professional grade competitive. And then they give me Olympus, and I cried so much. but justice has been served theoretically, so I'm not too mad about it. Spire engaged in a fight here. We've seen them take them up, but they have far worse armor than LF0. But yeah, one already going down too. Oh yeah, Risen Rose fell early here. That's really big too. And LF0, yeah, they just have nothing to go off of here. It looks like that positioning over here from Spire so superior. Solid PK shot, but that's gonna be all that they find. LFL also down. Spire gonna recover, get all the armor that they need for this incoming third party now.
Honestly, give me OG Kings Canyon.
Ew.
What do you mean?
I hate Kings Canyon, man.
No.
Oh, OG Kings Canyon. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that as much.
Yeah, little Apex baby.
I am a little baby.
Oh, bless your heart. Nah, you know what? I think that overall the maps that Respawn have brought out for Apex Legends have been really good. Olympus, of course, in its own little category. Oh, we've got the aerial battle. I love aerial battles. It didn't last very long, and unfortunately, that's going to be one of those players taken down very quickly, of course, by Silent. You cannot take an aerial battle against Silent. He's going to win.
Yeah, everyone.
There you have it.
Everyone's so glad that the spread bug got fixed on the Horizon tag, right? Everyone's really happy about that. Everyone's really glad that they fixed that and that Horizon wasn't nerfed secretly in the patch. Everyone's really happy that that happened, right?
Yeah.
Here's LFO forever again. Hopping in on another fight. But, oh man, getting burned to a crisp here. The verticality really coming into play, and this looks like it might be a full wipe.
Oh man.
Whoa!
In the blink of an eye, just absolutely deleted. And there again, right, the ordnance usage comes through so heavily, and some nice focus fire from our the no reply guys. Fantastic stuff there. And of course, that was our leaderboard top team. So that's going to deny them the opportunity to get more points here. They should still have a decent placing by the end of this, but going down 17th means like no points from this round. So a bit of a tight one for them. They're going to have to really rein it in as we get into the next lobbies if they want to try and maintain a top spot here. But of course, getting that top team off the board really allows the other teams a moment to breathe. And also gives them a little bit of hope that they'll have an opportunity, especially when you consider how many kills they got. Like, now everyone's going, oh, thank God, we can actually get some kills.
Yeah, and no reply, that team that beat them is one of the teams that I think is hungriest for that, considering that they're a really good squad when it comes to team fights. They unfortunately just got booted out really early in that previous game, only coming out with 1 point from that. So they've already really increased their score, I think, fourfold by this point already. Rainrot Zero IQ is a team that doesn't have as much of a cushion to worry about, but honestly, the disparity in that first game is too much to really ignore, and so only on 5 points right now. They have a lot of work that they need to do, and getting that initial fight there is definitely important for that. Spire finally experiencing that third party that they were waiting on for seemingly forever, but they're doing it without Netty as they've been down quite early. So now Silent and Oragu meeting each other along the Horizon tack, but the ladder of that falls as well, and Oragu now standing alone, already getting burned to a crisp, and that's gonna be it. Spire Academy falls. Alliance Sigma now controlling the territory.
And that's Beers getting eliminated as well, so down to only 13 teams left in this lobby. Still in round 1, and 7 teams have been taken out. We're starting to see that aggression coming through. That first lobby, it's teams kind of feeling each other out, seeing how that first lobby is going to go. Now we get into the second, and it's pedal to the metal. It's full on to the accelerator. Oh, goodness me. Skisek almost gets absolutely deleted there. Able to get away, so thank goodness for that one. But yeah, we're seeing a lot more kind of confident, ballsy plays from some of these teams, and it's quite entertaining to watch. But of course, it does mean that there's a lot of danger here as the pot shots come through from the Peacekeeper. Oh, just not able to survive in Hambino. We've seen this play out before. Last player left alive here, trying to do that little bit of extra damage, trying to take out that player. But a retreat means that there is a moment to get these players back up. And it's a no, never mind. Straight from the top rope and got choke slammed on the way down. Fantastic from Hambino.
That was a very interesting choice to re-engage out the gate here, considering on how low health that fight was. But it was mid-res, and so I think maybe No Reply was just doing a little bit of really quick math to see if they could deal enough damage in that moment during the res. But unfortunately, the ping was too good for 2v1F. But now comes the third party atop that. Leave No Witness G entering and going to be able to steal everything from those set boxes, and also understand that thanks to the BH tack, their fight is a little lower down into that building. Leave No Witness attempting to find their opponents. There they are again on the 3rd floor, and Rena is going to be the first to engage upon it, launching an Arc Star into that fray.
And the fact that they're continuing to chase this as well, they figure that it's going to be a low HP, easy cleanup, and that is exactly what it seems to be. That Digitrack coming in so huge to consistently look through that smoke, not allow that denied sightline to make any sort of trouble. And there you go. That's a perfectly executed third party, as 2 more teams will get wiped off the board. We're still in round 2, and we're down to only half squads left.
Yeah, this is a much more volatile game on World's Edge than I think the previous one was. These teams so much hungrier, and I think a lot of that has to do with that circle. Edged a little bit towards a space that's far less open, a lot more safe buildings that teams are much more excited to get to. and want to claim those safe spaces before other teams do. And, you know, they're willing to risk those possible third parties, those possible fights along the way, because that's simply what you have to do to get the KP, to get those placement points that you need. Armor getting taken on by Singularity here, and Kazakh already burned away, but Singularity only has 2 members online, so they still have to play a lot safer here.
Somewhat safely. You do have to retreat here, unfortunately, as Lysium going down does cause a little bit of a problem for Singularity, forcing them to have to retreat. Vermouth getting taken off. I love how this lobby has Vermouth and beer.
Yeah, that's great. You got a couple choices, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we're just about ready to open up our own Apex Legends bar. Sounds like the greatest thing ever. Somebody please make that happen.
Yeah, that does sound really sick.
Just have like a themed, you know, pub and restaurant, right? And everybody comes No, the waiters are cosplayed as different legends. That would be amazing. And you could have like themed foods, right? Like the R309 steak. Or
you hire like
whatever.
some twins to play Mirage and serve like and they're on like roller skates and they're serving up just shots.
Be amazing. Somebody make that happen.
Yeah, let's
actually,
get some angel investors in chat. Yeah.
Be freaking incredible. This is the conversation devolution that happens when the lull happens.
Yeah, this is what happens when there's neutrality, which, God, there's some neutrality going on right now. Man, these teams are satisfied with where they are right now. This is insane.
Well, no reason to move, I suppose. Slowly, teams will start making their way back in towards the circle. But for now, is that a rat in the northeast, west?
Yep.
All right, good luck, Turns. Godspeed. I believe in you, buddy.
Staging too? Oh, boy. This circle. Oh, launch site circle as well. Siphon and tree rotation, but everybody's already down here. Yeah. These teams are so much more excited to just grab a spot in that final circle as soon as possible here. This is the kind of Apex that I think these players are more used to in this tournament setting, you know?
Run, Turns.
Run, Turns!
You got this, buddy.
Doing great.
Looking for some syringes, probably.
Oh, yeah.
He's still out. Okay, wrong direction. Wrong direction. Oh, no, not like this.
All right, they have some meds.
Oh, there you go.
They'll get out, I think.
I mean,
it's just a question of how far out will they get.
Well, precisely. I think they're about to run into like 4 teams that are just going to go, hello.
Yeah. And we go to Harvester on the northwestern edge, one of the first places that has to be left by what teams are here. And right now, there's still 2 of them, one of them being Lowest Entropy, going to try and engage here. Nice Horizon tack to mix up that initial entry onto the fight. Just make sure you avoid that gunfire. But Chick-fil-A hasn't found a single sight line to work with yet. And that black hole is going to find almost nothing. The door gets broken, but everyone else can run away. And in turn, the edge has to be cared for as well. But in turn as well, Chick-fil-A, the only player available with as much health as available to be able to take this on, has to bat up anyway, as does team on the other side here. And there's your first casualty. There's another. Panic will fall next, and Chick-fil-A, the re-engagement will work out, and Leave No Witness G, or at least what's left of them, will fall. But it cost quite a bit. Dalton down. Efi down to have to use a medkit here, as does Chick-fil-A, and a lot of time wasted down here. So gonna be forced to play edge for the time being as some of these other teams clash. Here's F7 Clan once again making a run for the top spot up here, and that's one step closer to it. Another team down, and the building once again cleared back up.
Oh, I mean, this is it, right? We were talking about how teams look really comfortable, not really wanting to engage into anything, but slowly teams are starting to make some moves here. Project Armor as well, posturing to potentially rush into this building, engage into one of the teams that are here. They've got a little bit of information about what might be behind door number 2, but you gotta get that timing just right. 7 squads left, and only 1 rat, which with 19 players left, which means every other squad is a full squad. No players missing, so you have to play this very, very
2.
carefully.
There's 2.
Is it 2?
Yeah. There's 21. So there's at least 2 people gone from the equation. But we don't know where those people are. Actually, we do. They're for turns. Yeah, they're turns. The only rat.
That's what I said!
I'm dumb. I'm
Bro,
sorry.
You need to stop doing
No, my math was
stream.
yeah, again, my squad math totally off. Again. I don't know how I keep doing that.
Don't worry about it. We got the math here, And Singularity being able to bring down 2 more players as they start to whittle away, trying to take control of this area here. And of course, gaining those all-important kill points. Smoke getting a little bit of respite from the sights of their enemies. But very soon, it's going to turn into a bloodbath. The door gets open and somehow still survives. Shots getting peppered through. And that's the lowest entropy taken down. I mean, that is... I'm a little surprised that Dalton pushed that. But fair enough. I mean, what else are your options at that point, you know?
Yeah, it sucks because there was that double-edged sword of there being so much space between them and the next fight, but also that just meant that, I mean, they could kind of take their time as long as they wanted when looking for that final kill, and so, yeah, there was kind of no good way out of there. F7 Clan looks like they're once again up against the wall here, this time trying to breach a different building that is occupied by Project Armor, who is pretty much fully kitted out and also has a really good spot in this upcoming circle too. So may not be a fight that they are willing to take fully just yet. And indeed, they'll take some space back away, maybe find an opening onto Zania there for a second there, but I don't know if they really want to commit it to anything just yet, because they know Singularity's on the other side of that. They know Armor has such a good amount of space to work with, and also there's still so much circle to play with now that 60 FPS is also down, and we're down to just 5 squads. One of them still being that rat.
Yeah, Turns has got his team into top 5.
That's crazy.
Just by, like, hard chilling. It is unreal.
They haven't even been, like, hiding either. They've just been, like, walking.
No. Okay, never mind.
Well, now, I mean...
now he's hiding.
But to be fair, they could start walking now and not run into any team for a solid, like, minute and a half anyway. Like, they're fine.
Yeah.
This is just for safety.
I realistically see the potential for a top 3 placement.
Oh, for sure.
That, like, if he can maintain a good position like he is now, there's more than every possibility, maybe even a top 2, which would be ridiculous, given how rough the start to this map went for them. But yes, we still have those 5 squads left. And the power of the crypto, man, the amount of information that's gathered from that drone, you know exactly where so many of these teams are. You can plot out your next point, and Singularity are kitted to the nines, armed to the teeth. They have everything in their position to just absolutely smack down on this team, but instead, they play the safe game. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's mainly because none of those doors are immediately breachable, and too many teams have easier sightlines onto that, as Kazakh has the up and up, while F7 is retreated back to their previous spots. That exhibit, unfortunately, will go pretty much unused for the most part. But in turn, you know, every single one of these full teams now has kind of their own little spot where they can choose to chill. The problem with that is most of them will have to move now, as most of this POI is getting burned away. Only like half a building and then two tinier structures available here for that cover in the final circle that is still not even started to close in, and yet Singularity, they still just want to continue aggressing, continue taking this fight because they feel that whittling down the resources on that one end will be worth it when you can steal from those death boxes in the bitter end. So hopefully they can keep themselves kitted enough to continue taking on these fights while searching for those extra KP. And that's the psychology of having that early lead, like people that LFO Forever does, that Singularity just didn't have to work with as much going into this game, but now they'll have to work with it against an EMP that has shredded so many of their shields on this low ground that they've decided to head to try and take an early part in this final circle. The Rolling Thunder to help cover against it, as Singularity will opt for the low ground first, and for now, they will stay safe enough, but very much not for long, as Elysium falls, already still forced to not be able to shield, as Armor still directly above them. F7 is still firing upon them, and Brainrot Zero IQ is now getting in on the action. Bursty and Wi-Fi trying to tear down Besk, and that will eventually come to fruition. We're down to a top 4.
Oh man, so many teams firing in there. Singularity just did not have the best positioning there to try and hold on to their spot on the lower ground. 3 teams firing in at them from above, and just so difficult to maintain any sort of control there. Now F7 Clan able to very, very quickly and quite easily get themselves back up to a full position. Oh my god, Turns.
Yes!
Bro.
Yes!
Bro, please.
Dude, this is amazing!
This is ridiculous.
Do we know? Can we? What?
Just vibing behind a silo. Like,
amazing.
no one is gonna find him ever.
Nobody's even close.
I don't think anybody's even looking for him.
Oh no.
That's a genuine, like, we'll sort that out later, man.
Yeah. It's like,
You know what would be
you know what?
hilarious?
Take
If,
your
like-
number 2 placements. Like,
But what would be so funny is if like the last 3 teams get into the most insane scuffle where only one player is left alive and Turns just rocks up.
oh
Like,
my
I am
gosh.
living for that
That's the dream.
storyline right now.
That is the dream. Well, Armor may not be a part of it. Is Kazakh the only one remaining and down to very low? No cover available. Armor gonna fall. Yeah, really shoddy position that they had to take up after Singularity fell after them. And F7 and Brain Rot, the last 2 full teams remaining, while Turns has yet to have to trot in. It looks like F7 is gonna try and take a little more space up here, at least to start things out, to scope out the competition they will have to fight this out with. But I think they're also
no.
still searching for Turns, and I think they know that they're
I think they
down here.
know.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I think they have an idea, but I think they're also too preoccupied with the potential for this other team to come invading, so their sights are still more primarily set on that.
Which make
Oh, they know.
I mean,
They know.
no. Oh, Turns has to rotate in. That's why they moved up. They know that he has to move.
Yeah. Oh, here they come.
like
Yeah,
this.
free rat for F7. Turns already shredded away. Down to flesh.
No.
Searching for those last few bullets without being able to get caught by Brain Rot, but F7's time is running short. But Turns is running a little bit shorter. They're able to sell back up, and so actually now the other side is going to see if they can get in on things too. Weak, forgetting that they have to rotate in too.
No
Losing a little bit of
shots.
health to Storm. Now comes the Rolling
No
Thunder on top of them.
shots.
F7 may have isolated themselves a little bit too much. Turns is still alive right now. And they walk. Flesh down too. Still alive, just barely. TKC finally falling. And we have a squad versus squad. But F7 is so worse for wear right now. I don't know if they can handle this right now, Sam.
Oh, taking so much damage there in their attempt to secure that 2nd place position, and it may have cost them the run for first, but a lot of damage being returned in, however. They're managing to stay toe-to-toe to keep things competitive. They've managed to take down one. They've managed to take down another. One player left alive here, and that's it. It's Brain Rot that managed to pull through a valiant effort there, but unfortunately when your attention is turned to a rat, you give over so much space, and Brain Rot were incredibly quick to snatch that up.
And it's a game that they 100% needed to. Only 5 points in that first game. Had to make sure that they were able to keep their spot now that everyone will have a much bigger dip into that point pool. And with a Caustic Loba core, no less, along with that Seer, a fun addition to make sure that they could keep the buildings if they wanted to, and then just throw an Ox gas down when the time came. And that's exactly what they did. A great play once again by Brain Rot to give them a solid 12-point boost. Hey, props to Turns for giving TKC that 3rd place position, fought through and through. And I think TKC, thanks to Turns, may actually stay in this top 8 outside of World's Edge.
Yeah, I mean, I was living for the Turns 2nd place position, but unfortunately just not allowed to happen. And I mean, what I was saying really does ring true. The attempt to secure a 2nd place spot cost them a run at 1st place. If they had completely ignored Turns and focused on winning the squad battle, they could very easily have won out the entire lobby. So definitely something to think about. But we do have our scoreboard ready and available here. So let's see how things have panned out since Lobby 1. Remember, LFO Forever were our top scoring team. They've dropped all the way down into 5th position after going down so early. But F7 Clan have skyrocketed to 1st place. Brain Rot skyrocketing to a joint 2nd place with Project Armor. But these score lines are pretty damn close still.
Yeah, that's F7 taking the highest amount of points, or excuse me, not the highest amount of points, but taking a top 2 position in both games on World's Edge now. And yet the disparity isn't that big, simply because of the kill performances and the other winners, of course, in Brain Rot Zero IQ that have given them that extra spot up. As Brain Rot also had a solid showing out on game 1 there. They got that 5th place spot, got that 1 KP along the way, and now tacking onto that the 22 total points that they got from this game. Really important stuff. TKC keeping up that 4th place spot thanks to, I think, purely placement. Oh, actually, no. On top of Turn staying alive, there was actually 2 squad wipes coming from TKC out of that game as well. So really big props to that squad for keeping themselves alive as well. And I mean, this just speaks to the little microcosm of teams that we have that really show out, because F7 stayed up there. Brainrot IQ, Zero IQ stayed up there. Project Armor also, of course, getting first place in the previous game. And getting the, or excuse me, not first place the previous game, getting that high placement the previous game as well. And so we're kind of developing, I think, an even smaller than 8-team strong group of teams who really rounded out these final circles. But now that we're headed to Storm Point, that could totally change.
That's it. But before we head to Storm Point, I remind everybody this is the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series. And on top of hosting awesome tournaments, Community Gaming also has a questing system. And this allows you to earn rewards for simply using the platform daily. Each day, you'll be able to complete quests involving learning, competition, and social media actions. And this will earn you USDC rewards and more. Type !quest and follow the link to start earning rewards for your efforts today. We're going to take a short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, we wave goodbye to World's Edge as we return to Storm's Point. Welcome back, everyone, to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series. I hope you folks are ready. We are halfway through our final. We're heading over to Storm Point. And if we could just get a look at that leaderboard one more time, if we have that available, just to get an idea of what we're looking forward to into this third and second last lobby of the day. There's a lot here that needs to happen for these teams. Remember, top 8 is in the money. But of course, you want that first place position. And I mean, the difference between first and second place it's reasonable, but it's definitely not insurmountable.
Yeah, and it's, again, because we saw this tiny bubble that made both those final circles, F7, Project Armor, TKC, LFO, both those, teams that had a really good showings in both games. LFO, of course, an outlier to that. They just had a really effing good first game and then just, lost out early on in that second one, but were able to hold on to a good couple KP along the way to keep themselves alive in that as well. But yeah, going into Storm Point, everything about to flip on its head, and I think one more chance for teams to make sure that they deserve at least a chance to go for that top 8 by the end of the final game. But now that we're heading over to Storm Point, you have one more chance to at least get that jump on things. And heading over, of course, talk about this crafting again. Once again, backpacks not available. Mobile respawn beacons are, though. And I think that plays a big part in how many racks we've seen throughout these games, because there have been times where teams have had to abandon fights, and there have been times where teams have not. The psychology of knowing when to run away, when to relinquish things, and when you can actually go for those cards and have a full team like we saw 2v1F have by the end of that final game that we saw for Group D. It means the difference a lot of the times between, a top 10 and a top 5 finish. Tack onto that the purple knockdown shield, and I think the 2x HCOG optic in the crafting rotation as well. I think a lot of teams are going to be comfortable kind of slowing things down, at least for this early game, making sure they're kitted out for the bats, for the kits, and take those POIs, or not take those POIs for granted before the rotation eventually comes through. We saw a good couple southern circles previously when we went to Storm Point on stream so far. Nothing that really centered around the islands as much, though. Moreover, it was the southeastern edge more than anything else. I would love to see like a northern circle for Storm Point. I'd love to see some people duking it out with those really hilly woods, the crazy forest where there's just ridge after ledge after plateau after so many different ways that teams can just dance around cover. I'd love to see those teams really play with it. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how many more interesting rat plays we have. Thank you, production, for keeping the rats alive and showing us their struggle and their attempts to stay in this. It's definitely been very, very entertaining. And of course, you get these almost Cinderella stories like turns. But a top 3 placement for his team, definitely not something to be upset about. So yeah, fantastic that we do get to check that out. I'm looking forward to Storm's Point as well. I think that, the difference between World's Edge and Storm's Point, of course, not quite as open. Of course, it has open areas, but there's far more cover that you can utilize. So this will really allow teams to take a lot more space, but they could wind up in engagements unbeknownst, right? You kind of run around a corner, and next thing you know, you're right in front of another team. So it does have that extra little element of danger to it. So curious to see how the teams opt to play this. Again, we're expecting a slightly different scene from what we saw in our group stage. It has been a lot more subdued. We do have a lot of that aggression relatively early on, but it does kind of peter out a little as the map goes on. It doesn't kind of stay high octane continuously from drop. So you can see the teams are really focusing on making sure that they can get that placement. And now on a map like Storm's Point, that does make that potentially that little bit more possible.
Yeah, I think also the fact that we're, like we said, in this lobby where more teams have a better idea of how to play for self-preservation, the game falls into more of a flow that that tournaments tend to follow. And so you saw in World's Edge, at least, the teams that were zone teams fully publicly proudly brandish themselves as zone teams, make a beeline for that third circle the second they get intel about it. Zone teams happy with elongating those fights, happy with taking their time, happy with farming out armories in the very beginning and then taking half of their health and then just farming a bunch of medkits on crafting. Can you do that again when when you go to Storm Point this time, with every team having that same mentality? We saw a third-party storm across a lot of those rotations, and I'm wondering that step-by-step process, how many teams will falter this time around, and how much of a sturdy fight will we see every time we head over to two teams clashing?
Yeah, sorry everybody, we will be heading into our game very, very shortly. Sorry for the slight delay here, but obviously we've mentioned the stakes that are at play here for these teams. They want that lion's share of the $1,000 prize pool, of course brought to us by community gaming. So I'm just going to take this moment to tell you a little bit more about community gaming. Obviously, this entire tournament is brought to us by Community Gaming. They provide a tournament platform for games like Valorant, EVO, Hearthstone, and a bunch more. It also supports a wide variety of grassroots tournaments. They offer tools and guidance to organizers to help supercharge their events. So if you're interested in getting involved, if you want to run some of your own tournaments there, if you want to join some tournaments, head on over to communitygaming.io to learn more. Thank you so much, guys, for hosting this tournament. It's been fantastic to be here. And I'm actually quite curious, Henrik. So you had mentioned a little bit earlier that you're just kind of getting into Apex now. So I'd be really curious to hear, like, how has your journey been so far?
So far, I'm really happy with how things have been. I've been watching competitive Apex for a good while now, since around the Jibby Caustic meta is really when I started to get into it a lot more. And I got to run a Carnage Cup a couple months ago with Knights, which was really great. And then just recently I did the 4th Challenger Cup for NA. I get to do Pro League Last Chance Qualifier in like 2 weeks, so I'm really excited for that. It's really awesome getting a better idea of the T2 Apex scene, because it was something that I really wanted to crack this year. And of course, everyone, even all the Apex players have been very kind to me along the way. So I'm very happy with how I've been welcomed into the scene, and I'm excited to watch more of that Apex scene grow, including in this tournament. Which, you know, talking about that prize pool, I fear that we have not mentioned the spread of that pool. Actually, the top 8 teams, you guys know, are getting that pool, but for specificity, first and second's disparity above the rest of the prize pool is actually quite big. First place getting 400, and then second getting 300, followed by third place getting $125, fourth 75, and then 5th through 8th all getting 25. So a pretty big jump in your paycheck if you make it up to those top 2 teams. And right now, that gap, I think, is really starting to extend itself with teams like F7 Clan, who were consistent in World's Edge, LFL Forever, who had an early exit, but were able to hold on so evenly in that first game that if they have a pop-off on Stormpoint, like they did in the group stage, they could very easily make a run for the top of the podium.
Yeah, I must say, just to quickly respond to something you'd said, I found that the Apex community has been one of the nicest. I've worked in a handful of games across esports, and it's got to be said, the Apex community is one of the nicest and most welcoming scenes I've ever been a part of. So shout out to you guys for always being so wholesome. We're about to jump into our game, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that, a couple of technical difficulties, but we're going to be jumping in very, very shortly. And bearing in mind, this is of course a monthly series. So if you want to get involved, as I said before, you know, communitygaming.io, go check it out. Get a team together, and who knows, you might be on stream here with us in the months to come. You definitely get involved, and it's really great experience. You know, we talk about how a lot of this is grassroots, but you were also mentioning, you know, quite a few of these teams have some of that tier 1 experience, and you can see maybe not necessarily an entire squad, but a lot of the players have a ton of tier 1 experience going back. I mean, I was talking about Esdes and Zanian. I mean, they also blasts. Some of these players go back to the literal beginnings of Apex Legends. So the amount of experience that you can gain if you want to hop in and get involved with Apex Legends, this is the place to do it. So go and check that out. We are just about diving into our third. Jeez, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Our third round, our third lobby of our final. I'm looking forward to seeing which team is going to somehow snag that top spot here.
Very limited time to do it as we head into this penultimate match here in the finals. Once again, $1,000 total up for grabs. 8 teams gonna grab a piece from it. And these POIs, we have no idea who's dropping where. Once again, there was no drop spot channel. There was no interactive map we got to use. Nobody publicly or privately claimed them for specifically this tournament. And so a lot of these players are just riding off of previously claimed POIs and the knowledge from other players that those players have claimed said POIs. Unfortunately, that doesn't cover the entire lobby. And so there may be a couple of contests as well here on Stormpoint very early on, especially considering where this circle may end up. A lot of island favoring here for some of these teams, including LFO Forever, who has already locked themselves into a fight. But that's just how they play at this point, I mean.
Oh, well, it's a good start as well. Get themselves that first knock. Try and get those kill points that they've been so... Oh, that is nasty. That's just gross. The Wraith lives for so long, but the final peppering will come through, and Alliance Sigma will be our first team to fall here right off of the drop. They might choose to drop somewhere else next round. We'll see how that pans out. But for now, that's an extra 3 kills for LFO Forever, looking to climb their way back up that ladder.
Already,
no turns.
Oh,
no, buddy.
boy.
Oh, no.
Man, that's huge. Over a launch pad here. And that's a big interaction between two teams that had already been making a solid crack for the top spot. Of course, TKC currently in 4th, but that is a big stunter to that growth. But meanwhile, followed by those Titans as well. 2v-Tubers, 1 Femboy, who had a relatively lackluster performance in World's Edge as well. Only 9 points so far this game. Heading over to an armory to pick up all of that sweet, sweet loot. Nobody camping outside them just yet, I think, but considering how occupied islands are right now, that's that may not stay true the entire time they are over here. So definitely got to keep their eyes out.
It was heartbreaking for turns. He manages to rat it out into a top 3 placement in the previous lobby, and this time basically killed off drop. Of course, that'll be TKC out of the running in this lobby very, very early on. But yes, if you didn't spot that little X-ray up above, there is a team that has spotted them out here. LFO just above. Looking for a moment to potentially push in, but they're going to have to be relatively quick. Yeah, you don't want to dilly-dally. You don't want to give away your position and allow that team an opportunity to rebuttal. They might actually wait until this team leaves, which I think could be a bad idea because you're allowing them to then get that loot. So if you're going to push, you've got to do it. And this team on top, LFO, definitely at a bit of an advantage comparatively.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty big fight. In comes the proc. The choice has been made. It's the classic fish farm frenzy at this armory. Always seems to come out. And LFO off to a great start. Hambino already down. Better shields, slightly better weapons. Despite the armory grab, 2v1F is up a creek without a paddle. There is basically nothing left. And now there is absolutely nothing left. But LFO has got to be quick because there's a bit of mild occupation over at Gale Station. And this is a pretty open spot in between SED and Fish Farms, neither of which, by the way, are in the upcoming circle. So either way, LFO's got to get a move on.
That was actually really well played from them. I was a little concerned that they might be a little bit too far on the back foot here. Obviously, with quite a bit of looting already having been done. But they managed to come out on top quite strong. It felt like 2v1F were trying to be a little bit too split up, right? Like using those geysers and constantly kind of changing position so far away from each other. It was really difficult for them to maintain a control, and LFO did a really good job of just peppering them down and taking away any opportunity they had of surviving through that one. Now, as we head on over, we've got another engagement happening here with a lot of teams nearby as well. So the potential for a third party is very, very strong.
So many teams in the vicinity, but and again, that's just kind of how Catcher works, honestly. Everybody comes here. It's ridiculous. Beers, a team that's been having a pretty okay performance throughout the lobby, but unfortunately has not been able to really crack anything here in the grand finals. Only 2 points going into Storm Point, so really have to show out if they want a piece of this prize pool in these last 2 games. And with a quarter of the lobby already gone, they're in a good spot to do so, but in a pretty contested spot, in a safe area of the circle, they may have to get ready to puppy guard for quite some time. Risen Rose's remnants are battling against another 2 squads, one of which is Spire, who has taken that high ground, but Trebstacks, that remnant of Risen Rose, is going to be the first to actually run away from that, while the full squad fight between Spire and said opponents finally commences.
A little bit of damage to try and secure, and yes, they do manage to secure that. Still out in the zone, but of course, not tons of damage, so not too stressed out. Spire, pretty happy with how that turned out. Oh no.
That's 2 rats again.
Oh, we do love the rat gameplay. And you know what? At least Trebstacks is within the circle, but very likely going to get caught out quite quickly. I mean, this is a long road that needs to be traversed, and it's pretty open at the moment.
Were there 3 squads that dropped here at Northpad? 3 squads dropped here. Why?
I'm a little worried about Shelby over there.
Yeah, Shelby's in some trouble here. Spire has no reason to leave yet because this is first ring, so they
Yep.
can play edge as long as they want to. And we've seen that Spire already plays a good amount of edge here. Armor caught out by this tack, but unfortunately, there's just not enough to back it up. And so Project Armor still in the much better spot as this retreat down into the building actually may leave their opponents even worse for wear, as Project Armor has basically full shields and I think only one or two more opponents to deal with the crouch in front of this door. Not long for this world, and now just one more to burn away from. It's another runaway attempt, but the Rat wants to fight it out, won't for long, and Beers will finally fall. Unfortunately, unable to get too much done once again. And, hey, look at that. Stormcatcher has been taken by a different team.
Would you like some fun trivia on Project Armor?
Oh, absolutely.
So Estes and Zania, originally they had two different team names. They played under two different team names. Originally they were Team 6,
Okay.
and then they were Team 789.
Oh, fun!
Yeah.
Those
it
are
was an
both great
interesting
names.
change.
Now you're just
Yeah.
Project Armor? Sorry to whoever named Project Armor, but, like, I mean, you got a high bar to hit, unfortunately. But, unfortunately,
Oh,
Armor
no.
not going to be able to survive this either, and Lowest Entropy has now taken Stormcatcher after a very successful invasion. Works out for them. But guess what? Another team's around, and they're going to try and take it out.
Just third party after
Doesn't
third
stop.
party after third party, man. Round and around we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. Still a little bit subdued for the moment. Trying to spot out the player. There you go. A little bit of that early chip damage. There's FA Decimators will be taken off screen. And man, they're having a rough time of it. I don't think they've managed to get any points yet. So unfortunate there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody's doing great so far.
Oh, bless you.
I know, I haven't been corrupted yet. It's okay. A dually down at 2 here in a mild fight on Stormcatcher. I think the fact that this is now like a 7th party is finally catching up to both to both sides, and everyone's just like, this is just bad for everybody. War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. And Lowest Entropy currently down to 2. Dalton about to fully fall, but uh-oh, here comes another team.
Lord. I mean, to be fair, Lowest Entropy was around for a little while. Like,
Right,
they've
yeah.
been around the area. But, like, yeah, the push-in, the attempt. Oh, I mean, Chick-fil-A's doing some things. Morse Cap's going to be the last one and going to absolutely book it as far away from there as humanly possible. We'll be able to escape with their lives for now. And we will add one more rat to the list, folks. Down to 11 squads in round 2. Again, an unreal number of early eliminations. Hey, love to see it. Raking up those kill points. We said it, right? It's so important, and it can make a huge difference.
It's another potential rat here as this fight continues to rage on as well. Vermouth having an overwhelming advantage on it, so we should be down to 10 soon, but yeah, this is unprecedented how many members of teams at this point are MIA. Currently stands 4 players out of the 10 teams now remaining, as it looks like we have another potential clash here as F7 Clan is watching for LFO forever here, I believe. Blast's gonna try and pull that trigger. Light losing a lot of health first. F7 on the attempted dive down. LFO losing a lot more health right now.
Stacks.
But here comes Trev Stacks on the rat for Risen Rose.
What are you
An
doing,
attempted
buddy?
third party, maybe, as F7 and LFO are still duking it out. It'll finally end. Blast and Lackey are on low health. They're gonna go for the res. I don't think that they're gonna press. I don't think, yeah, Trev's out of time. Trev, oh, and
Get
then
out
Trev
of
is
there.
caught by the BH attack. That's so bad.
But the thing is, he threw in an Oxstar, so they knew that there was someone else there, and he has to hightail it out of there as quickly as possible, and they are firing in on him. But eventually they'll be like, all right, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. We need to, like, heal and get our shields back up, because if somebody else decides to try and come in on us, we're going to be, like, absolutely screwed. So Trev Stacks survives to survive another day, because let's face it, he ain't fighting another day.
He's not fighting anytime soon. Yeah.
Oh, found a tree.
Yep, Trev gonna find a little rat spot to rat up. It's not super optimal, but it's not bad for now, at least. And honestly, if you're a rat, it's not like you're allowed to complain, really.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Honestly
but
true.
oh man, this circle, wow, this circle very interesting. Once again, the zone teams clearly brandishing themselves as zone teams, and the edge teams clearly doing the same here, while TrevStack sort of just chills in the in-between. And the one building, that's right, it's Stormcatcher, is continuously contested. Leave no witness G, one in the vicinity as 60 FPS goes down. We are down to 8 squads. And LNW is looking for another to take down atop Stormcatcher.
And some of these teams are just hemorrhaging players right now. You know, we're missing quite a few players here from the total. We know of at least one rat. So it's making everything that a little bit more difficult for so many of these teams. But Leave No Witness doing a lot better in this lobby than they had in the previous 2 lobbies. Like, they had some good games, but this is definitely a stronger position for them, a stronger start for them as well. So we'll see if they can get a few more points for themselves, get a few more of those kill points as well, and hopefully see them kind of start to climb up that ladder as well. I see Panic has at least 1 assist, so, you know, they're definitely at least getting some points out of this. Of course, the... Is it 2 points for getting in top 10? Why are we looking at a boat check? Oh, okay.
Exactly.
It's a world. I was so confused, man. I
That's-
was like, what are we looking at?
That's foreshadowing, Sam. That's foreshadowing. As Stormcatcher is now abandoned, nearly. Honestly, I would too. After all the carnage there, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, no,
Spire.
This has got ghosts.
Yeah, Spire heading out into Circle Day Trek. And, yeah, a good couple bits of cover to work with here for these teams, and yet I have a feeling that very few of them are going to use them. I think everybody at this point is hungry for KP, particularly the teams that are currently out of the top 8 contention.
Oh,
Unfortunately, LFO Forever is not one of them, as they are currently in the top 8, but they are looking for a better spot in it. This might not be the best way in, though, as Locky, fortunately, Horizon Tack not providing too much cover, and Light having to fully heal back up after getting completely melted down. Lacky's shields are now gone too, thanks to a later reactive Horizon Tack from the other end, and Ephil Dalton and the rest of the squad are doing pretty well off for themselves in that little skirmish we have going. Meanwhile, on the other end of that, LNW is in a little bit of a distance war of their own. Once again, very neutral fights so far, where everyone's kind of just farming a little bit of damage, making sure that nobody gets too close to them. But LNW is starting to have to face that as they head to this high ground potentially. No, they are really trying to make sure they play this as carefully as possible. And up they go to this high ground.
Oh.
It is Rena that falls first from Leave No Witness, and then Visionage next. Afterwards, LFO Forever is gone, and so is Aduli. LNW had enough this time, and they own this building. 6 squads to go. Circle still closing in as well. This northern edge attempting to be monopolized, but it's now under duress from LNW, who have still yet to res Rena.
I mean, that was some impressive fire, right? Like, Rena goes up to that high ground, gets absolutely deleted, and you're like, okay, team on the high ground should have the advantage, but the shots ring true perfectly for Panic, and is able to really start to whittle away from the HP in between the two of them. Nicely confirm themselves control of this building, get their teammate back up, and now they're looking pretty good going into the next few rounds. Of course, we've got some teams here just around the corner. Spire seem to be player down, unless Silent is just kind of off screen, which we have seen before. TrevStack still chilling, hard chilling.
Yeah, I think we're back in that mild neutrality again. Like, but a team like Leave No Witness has to continue aggressing because of how bad a position they are right now, because they technically still have low ground right now, and that is not okay when they have to move. Lowest Entropy, a team that is kind of trying to circle the boat and make sure that their entrance into circle is as uncontested as possible. Chick-fil-A having that Kraber to try and help with that, as they've been able to survive fight after fight, but never a really decisive victory for them so far. As, yeah, TrevStacks, I think we have another attempt at a top 2 rat. This one might be a little bit more successful. We'll see, as Risen Rose is a team that also performed great the previous group stage, but did not on World's Edge, coming away with a total of 3 points before this game even started. So a lot of work needs to get done.
Oh!
Chick-fil-A, solid shot with the Kraber to start things out on to LNW. That is 1 down, 2 to go. How are you going to finish things off?
Oh, it's Brave holding on to Kraber. There you go. Swapping that out. Bring out the R301 for the spam damage as these enemy players constantly up and down in that zero gravity, but not going to be able to survive as it's Ethel who's just mowing through them. Still alive for now, so gonna need to be a little bit of cleanup there, but it shouldn't be too long. However, the third party is incoming. It's imminent. But the funny part is that the third party is being fired in on from across the map. It just never ends. They're going to arrive and attempt a third party at a lowered HP and immediately start to get melted down. This squad is not willing to give up their position. Brainrot trying so hard to push in here. Already 1 player down.
That's it.
Where'd he go? Oh, he gone?
Yeah,
He gone?
yeah. Brainrot got LNW.
Kept the hands.
Yeah, Brainrot, and that was a decision that they really had to weigh their options on, just because it's a lower ground that they have to trek down to. The circle doesn't necessarily favor it as well, but speaking of circle, check out TrevStackz.
He's in trouble.
Barely surviving on the rat on the bear rotation in. But yeah, now you're heading back in, and you know, that was lower health. That was not a great position to re-enter on. That was a position that you knew every other team kind of had a sightline on you for, and yet Brainrot knew they could get away with it, and they did. Now they're going to be fully res back up. They have to use a couple of their meds, but honestly, that doesn't really matter at this point because of how volatile this final circle is going to be and how little time you'll have to use your resources if they're flushed out properly. Vermouth, definitely probably one of the big dogs alongside Spire here, who are both occupying the same spot, and actually, they might be the teams fighting each other right now. Maxi confirming that with that drone thrown up, and in the process, now here comes Brainrot back again, ready to third party this fight instead.
Well, bearing in mind, of course, there's only 3 full squads left. TrevStackz makes up that 4th squad. So our 3 full squads are now moving in onto each other as there's the attempt at the third party is coming through here. Vermouth has managed to take down Arago, and that's the 2nd time they've downed him. But now the body here inside with them, not going to be in a resable position. So obviously, Spire now down a player, but acutely aware of where Vermouth are situated. And of course, you've still got your 3rd squad still kind of chilling out LNW towards the back there. Oh, sorry, not LNW. Brainrot coming in, looking for that potential third party, not looking to push in before they absolutely have to. No team's getting distracted by the rat. I don't think they've even spotted him out yet. Very, very focused in on the fight in front of them. High damage coming through here, but players getting absolutely melted as Mr. Hunter, last player left alive for his team with just the slightest bit of HP, does a nice little armor swap there. That'll keep him alive just a little bit longer. As TrevStackz starts to make his way in, looking to try and third party in on somebody, as now Brainrot clean up Vermouth. Now they just have to deal. No, they found him.
They gotta
They
trace.
found him.
It's
Somebody play the
chasing
Benny Hill music.
TrevStackz. Oh, the black hole thrown down, so TrevStackz has a little bit of time to escape here. But yeah, Brainrot searching for that. They are thanking their lucky stars that Netty almost 1v3'd there for Spire, because the rest of the work they had to do to take down the remainder was so easy. And now, the rat on top of that, Brainrot 0 IQ comes in with one of the easiest #1 victories after that top 3 finish. They really just came in and third partied at the right moments, came in exactly when they needed to. And that means that they have won now 2 games in a row. I imagine they're going to come away with such a massive total after this.
And TrevStackz actually did manage to rat himself to a 2nd place. Well freaking done. And this is what I'm saying, man. If you focus your attention on the rat, you give up the opportunity to come out on top. Brainrot, they were rotating in. TrevStackz was right next to them. They were like, rather focus in on the big teams, focus in on that big third party. And when it comes down to it, when there's only 1 player left alive, well, that's just cleanup. A fantastic victory there. And again, I mean, it comes so heavily down to that positioning. For them to be able to come in and third party, to do the cleanup, to not be involved in that initial scuffle. And sometimes that can be the biggest difference maker in those final moments of the round. And the fact that they've managed to win 2 games here, I think that that's going to put them solidly in that first place position, solidly looking at taking home the lion's share of that cash. So now let's find out if I am correct. We do have our scoreboard available for you folks, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the scores have chalked up after this particular map because it was an absolutely nutty one.
Yeah, Brainrot Zero IQ definitely taking that first place spot. But actually, in this game that just happened, Brainrot did not get the most points. That honor goes to Lowest Entropy, who controlled Stormcatcher longer than anybody else and got 15 kills to show for it, giving them 19 points out of this game, which is one above Brainrot. That has boosted Lowest Entropy to a really impressive 32 points. That gives them third place for now. But this gap is really starting to show itself, Sam. Brainrot taking those 2 games means so much for the disparity between first and the rest of that top 5. And right now, that is at least 9 points strong. And in turn, the gap between 5th place and the rest of this crowd from 6th to 10th is much smaller.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely proven that a 9-point gap can be surmounted, right? We've had 2 teams that have had a above 14 kill game, 14 and 15 kill games, plus the placement points. So it's definitely surmountable, but you also have to bear in mind that Brainrot will still be accumulating points. So for a team that wants to take over, they first need to take out Brainrot, and I'll be very curious to see if teams have figured out where Brainrot are dropping, and if we see some griefing strats, try and take them down off spawn, try and deny them those points, because bearing in mind, folks, we're heading into our very, very last lobby of the night. This is a last chance saloon to try and snag that top spot. So before we get to that, I remind everybody, Community Gaming, if you like auto battler games, you'll want to check this out. Community Gaming has partnered with Planet Mojo to bring you a $5,000 Mojo Brawl. For those that don't know, Planet Mojo is a Web3 auto battler platform being built by a game of gaming industry veterans. Very new, so a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities in this one. The open qualifiers for the Mojo Brawl will be around the 4th to 5th of February, and then the closed qualifiers will be around the 11th to 12th of February. Now, if you want to sign up, if auto battlers are your thing, if you want to win your share of $5,000, then you can type !Planet Mojo in the chat to find out more information. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, it is our very last lobby of the finals of the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series. Folks, you don't want to miss it. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone, for the last time this evening to the Community Gaming Apex Legends monthly series for January. Yes, we are about to jump into our final lobby of the night. Honestly, tonight has been incredible to watch from the group stage all the way up to the final, but after this, we will crown our victor. So let's take a look at our scoreboard one more time so that we can start to kind of flesh out what the ending might look like here. Of course, as we said, Brainrot IQ, after 2 consecutive wins with some serious high kill points, have managed to snag themselves a decided and strong first place here. But what do you think, Tenrek? What are your predictions coming into this last lobby?
I think this is really exciting, particularly because of how far the prize pool is divvied up. Because normally, when you're talking about a 5-team cutoff after 4 games, or even a 10-team cutoff after 6 games, there's a lot more of a disparity by this point. However, among the top 8 to the rest of the lobby, I mean, Alliance Sigma isn't really even gatekeeping. They're literally 1 point ahead of the team right behind them. And honestly, I think any of these teams can still at least make it to the top 8. You just got to find the right teams at the right time. But more than anything, I'm looking at the top dogs, those teams that are going to absolutely take most of this prize pool. It's just a question of which one takes the very top. Obviously, right now, Brainrot Zero IQ, the favorite for it after winning the previous 2 games, both with solid KP among them. But F7, who had great showings throughout, I think, this entire lobby so far. Lowest Entropy, who had one of the best KP showings we've had all day. Project Armor, another very consistent team. LFO Forever, a very kill-hungry team. TKC, very good at positioning. Like, so many strengths among this lobby that everyone has one more chance to show for themselves, and 8 more teams have the chance to grab some money off of it.
Well, we're now diving into it, folks. Our very last lobby of the evening with so much on the line. These teams, and bearing in mind, guys, this is essentially game 8 for these teams. It's been a pretty grueling day for them, but this is where it all culminates. This is where we determine who will be our top dogs of this tournament. And of course, it is just the monthly January, which means we will be back next month and the month thereafter and the month thereafter. So a lot of Apex Legends. If you're interested, go check out communitygaming.io where you can, excuse me, can sign up to join Tisha. Now, we're going to be diving on in at last, and I'm so excited. I will also say, totally off topic, but those flowers on the mountain toward, like, across the sea, they look like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, and it's very distracting. Yeah, I had to say it. It's been bothering me.
No, they're terrifying. They're so scary.
I don't know why we went with Gormagon, of all things, but there you go. Not Gormagon, Demogorgon.
Demogorgon.
Yes.
Demogorgon.
Yes.
See, I play a lot of Dead by Daylight, so I'm used to him.
There you go.
But okay, so a big topic to touch on again is the contested drops, starting things out. Because again, last chance for a team to be here. Another elephant in the room. Obviously, 2 teams are not here either. So again, a slightly smaller lobby to work against here for the final team. Some teams, sort of understandably, sort of unfortunately. Okay, now you're just rubbing it in. That does really look like a Demogorgon, doesn't it?
I know, right?
Man,
it's been like
I can't. I'm never gonna unsee that now. That's the best part of that.
I don't even watch Stranger Things, all right? But like, I've seen the memes, and so for someone who doesn't even watch it, and I'm just like, oh my god, why do I have to be reminded of this show constantly? But there you go for the Stranger Things fans. There you go. So again, we talked about, right, the contested drops, and I really thought that some teams would be going for the top placing teams, and immediately, oh my god, 2 teams just completely wiped out so quickly. And remember, Lion Sigma was in that 8th position, if I'm not mistaken. So that's it. Like, they could be in some serious danger now. They could be out of the points running. And I mean, the fight is not even over yet, because it just continues. These teams that have landed so close to one another instantly getting shut down. TKC have managed to survive, turns in a little bit of danger here, but there you go. Team is able to clean up the player that he had been firing on. That's Kikix. No, wait, that was his own teammate. Oh, dearie me. The kerfuffle. I mean, this is how confusing the kerfuffle is. There's so many teams firing in on each other, the smoke in your face, and I'm not 100% sure what's happening. You could be firing in on your own teammate for all you know.
For sure. We have actually seen that a couple times. I think we saw that last game, awkwardly enough, with Leave No Witness. They fired on themselves for a second there.
Yeah.
Luckily, they had enough collateral to deal with that next Eva shot. But yeah, I mean, you can really spare no excuse at this point. Your spacing has to be so immaculate when you're in even this echelon of Apex. I mean, you can't even imagine where it gets when you're on the ALGS stage.
Oh yeah.
Because from here, I mean, you need to be as precise as can be. 2 VTubers, 1 Femboy, one of the teams that is on the lower end of the scoreboard at the moment. But again, because of how many teams are going to be able to get a piece of the prize pool, no one is counted out until they're thoroughly eliminated. And with lowest entropy, only 1 member strong right now, and still the third party on them from TKC, 2v1F is looking to actually get 2 squad wipes here.
And that'll be massive for their overall points as well.
Oh no! Okay. All right, at least Flavors was there. At least Flavors was there, so like nobody has to talk about it.
Nah.
But man,
it's okay.
Oh,
Buddy.
that's painful.
Nobody saw.
It's okay. It's okay because he was in a smoke. They were in a smoke. So like it doesn't even matter. No, they couldn't see. They were in a smoke. They didn't have their ult up.
Yeah, no, never.
No.
Anyway, 15 squads left. Remember, we only started with 18, so 3 down. But of course, that means there's a fewer players to contend with. But now it seems that things never mind.
Oh,
I was like, no, things have calmed down. But no, they haven't. LFO Forever wiped off the planet. And yeah, I mean, that's going to push them quite a bit down the points scoreboard as well. I mean, that might even push them down into the $25, you know. And just for what it's worth, it was Spire that knocked them out of the running. So that's huge for Spire, but LFO are really going to be feeling that one.
Yeah, that's really important because LFO, they were kind of right in the middle of that prize pool area in 5th place starting out going into this game with 27 points, and that's a solid enough cushion because Spire, the team that just bested them, was in 9th place at 15 points. So still a long way for a lot of these teams to go, but no placement points. That's the really important part for LFO Forever. They have almost nothing walking into this last game when they have been so consistent in literally every other interaction we've seen them in so far. Except for another game previously in this finals lobby. It just, again, goes to show the level of competition that these teams are up against. Another team trying to make sure that they can keep the streak going is Vermouth. Just barely rounding out that top 8 pack, does not really have a total that is as cushioned as LFO Forever. They're only 3 points ahead of Spire Academy going into this. They need KP in order to make sure that they're not even tied with them technically right now. And so they are currently on the hunt throughout this island as the circle continues to encroach, just following the leader the whole way through. And Truman will actually fall first for it. Great strafing coming through from the first opponent in Jackie Boy, but now comes the rest of the squad. And with the shield swap available, Hundor opening and closing this door, 60 FPS will finally be eliminated, and Vermouth on limited time will be able to recover here.
Oh, and that was looking a little bit spicy there for a moment as well. But as you say, right, in the last kind of moments, able to clutch their way through it, taking a little bit of damage from the zone. But again, it's only round 1, so a lot of time allotted to them to be able to loot up and get what they can from those death boxes. As we bring it down to only 13 teams left, rotations continue in towards where that circle is. As teams get closer and closer to potentially bumping into one another, we can actually see a team here pulling away, retreating from this position. And that's probably for the best because there is a team kind of encroaching in towards them, but they're very likely going to be running straight into LNWs. And I'm pretty sure they've been spotted out already. So that could very quickly turn into an engagement.
Oh, Poga spots him. Here they come. Oh, nobody was seen. And Risen Rose eliminated. That's another big thing. That means they will not make the top 8 either, I believe. Unless their KP was just, like, massive before this, but I don't think it was, so. Rip Risen Rose, unfortunately. But Poga, now on the slightly lower ground, don't have as much of a building to call their home simply because of the invasion that came through because of it. Streamy on one end, attempting to find the horizon damage, but now comes the Rolling Thunder to help supplement that. So Papoga have a little more time to just wait this out, recover. And everyone is allotted a bit of time to get themselves back in this fight, but Papoga takes very little of it, and instead is going to use that time to try and make the ground up, but the black hole once again stalls them. Franz stuck on that low ground, will fall first, getting absolutely lasered. Mao the next, it's just down to Streamy. Can't find a good one-way, can't find a good sideline in the first place. On Flesh Throw, and will at least get one down, but won't have enough time to find the finisher, so it might not even matter that heavily. Okay, now searching for it instead. With 2 members on them, they have that pressure, but now comes the fire from the other direction, and Streamy, the one angle that they weren't watching, is the one that will be their downfall, and Papoga is out of contention for the top 8.
Oh, and Panic already down to Flesh as well. That could have been so close, but of course, when you're on low HP, you start to panic a little bit, you strafe a bit too much, it gets a little bit messy, you can't focus that fire, and with very little HP at the time as well, very, very difficult come out on top of that engagement. Speaking of, ooh, Spire taken down, Triaduli taken down, 2v1F instantly third-partied in onto TKC, play it down, but still brave enough, confident enough to push this, to not allow them the opportunity to get themselves healed up. The crack comes through onto the armor, and it's just continuing to push through, continuing to try and get that damage. But now, team is retreated into a building and may cause a bit of pause for Satiability here. He's gonna have to wait for the rest of his team to get back to him. This team that they're chasing have an opportunity yet to sort themselves out, to get themselves back up. And with this being only a 2-player squad, they don't want to wind up getting collapsed in on by a multitude of other teams. So rather back out, cut your losses, and try and re-engage a little bit later on.
I think that's really impressive by them as well, understanding not just when your opportunities come up, but also when they leave. And that tiny window, they missed out, and they understand that, and they have to go back out, and they just have to accept that they have to try and find KP somewhere else, because TKC is not in a perfect position. Leave No Witness, another team that has really had to try and make their way through up against 2v1F, a team that is even lower than them in the scoreboard right now, but Rena down to quite low health, actually burns thanks to the thermite and the extra gunfire, and so the window play has to come through even harder for LNW, but now they have to play with that extra deficit, forced to res, and so 2v1F has the time, and that is the signal for TKC to come in and re-aggress on top of the third party that was happening when TKC had initially engaged. And so now the whole family's here. Rena's back down again. Panic on the run quite low this time. It's just going to be down to Zilak for a second as Panic has to heal back up with this bat in the second building that has still been allotted to them because nobody's really been fully condensed yet, which means that this 3-team skirmish could go on for a hell of a long time.
And unfortunately, Rena is wiped off the board here, so the getting her back up is not possible. They're going to have to go for a revive if that's so what they choose. But with 9 squads left, that could be a very, very tricky choice or decision, rather. So now, and it looks like a lot of those teams actually backed out. There was so much fire taken, but it was like, all right, we got a couple of kills, we back out, we're done, it's fine. We come back a little bit later, right? Like, whittle away the resources as much as humanly possible so that when you do come for the reaggress, you have the upper hand. And, well, 2v1F in a hugely detrimental position here as Hambino's the last one left alive, stuck out in this zone. Still a little bit of fire being traded back and forth between these last two teams, but Hambino's become a bit of a rat himself, so he has to play that little bit more patiently here. Again, we're seeing this aggressive position from Leave No Witness. Well, it's staying true to the name. They don't want to leave any witnesses here. They want to try and wipe it out as quickly as possible. But of course, they're going to have to start making that move. Oh, they go for the respawn. All right.
Wow.
I wasn't sure that they would actually go for this. And I'll be curious to see if they actually make it out of the zone. It shouldn't be too far to run, but when you come in with, you know, limited HP and literally nothing on you, it's going to be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, especially with 2 semblances of teams still scoping you out. Going for that res is such a risky thing, knowing that 2 other teams were also looking for that potential res. And yeah, just as they jump in, they might be booted out. Once again, a trigger-happy decision will lead to a lot of punishment and some free KP here for TKC. But I think this is Hambino now actually getting in on the action finally. As Satiability now stands alone for TKC. And Leave No Witnesses is also still very worse for wear. I don't know if Hambino left or not, because those beacons, I think, by this point have absolutely expired. So no point in staying here, I think, unless you want to go for that KP.
but leave no witness. Down to that last player. Satiability winning the 1v1. Gonna get the res back up on a turns. And now they have a two-man squad. Unfortunately,
Turns
no
gonna die.
beacon available for Kikik, so it's gonna be a two-man rat the rest of the lobby here. But man, what a scuffle throughout that entire way. That ended up with ultimately only one squad getting fully eliminated.
But like TKC actually really, they leave me with pause to really consider how they take that, because like you can see that they're going, all right, the KP is more important. Turns actually gets knocked down in the bloodthirst, in the push for KP to try and increase that as much as possible. And like earlier on, Satiability was going incredibly aggressive, pushing to try and get kills when they were at a huge disadvantage numbers-wise, for one thing, and also just kind of constantly on the chase, not being able to actually find themselves in an advantageous position. So there's a lot of aggression from that team and a lot of want to push, but like it almost backfires. And they somehow come out on top of it. And you start to wonder, like, was that just, like, really smart play? Or were you just incredibly lucky? So coming out on top of that last scuffle is huge. But it also leaves me with a few questions about their decision-making and how much longer that's actually going to work out.
8 squads remaining here as Armor has taken care of one member of F7. I think there is still one more on top of this building, though. So fight's not completely done yet, but I think we're about to get down to 7 squads. Project Armor, a team that is already doing pretty well for themselves, but they love to get that first place spot. Now downing F7 Clan, a team that was directly above them earlier on. Very instrumental to making sure that is happening. So now I think really the only thing standing between them and winning this thing is obviously Brain Rot out the gate. Unless another team happens to find a lot of KP, because unfortunately Armor doesn't look like they found too many wipes from the looks of things. Maybe 2 or potentially 3 if I'm not mistaken. But they're also really isolated right here as a couple crucial buildings meant that this edge of the circle is much more occupied than the other end that we saw TKC on. And so while that fight rages on, we head back over to where TKC was to see some other teams have taken the spot instead. That's 2v1F's Remainder and Hambino indeed ratting out, while Shelby and Vlado once again in pretty suboptimal position thanks to the fight that they just decided to take on that edge. Means that they're stuck out. Now here's Zura, another rat on the other end, heading over to maybe spot Hambino, but now comes that team in Vlado and Shelby to try and take this spot back up. This is a simultaneous 5th party almost, Sam.
I mean, this feels like a bunch of teams just kind of running into each other. I mean, Satiability, again, while they're on the move, taking pot shots on another team, and when you're at a player down, they're already at a huge deficit, and it feels to
Oh my
me
God,
like
Hambino
a
got both.
really risky play. Hambino got both?
Hambino got both of them. That's a full squad. What?
Oh, wow.
When did
Ow.
Hambino find the banners? What? What an espionage mission that man went on. My God.
I don't know, man. I mean, that is wild. Like, no one found them. No one pushed in on them.
That's
Maybe
so
it was
good.
maybe it was like a mobile respawn. I don't know, but that's crazy. The problem, however, obviously it's great to have a full squad, and a full squad is always going to be better than just one player, but they are at a huge disadvantage in terms of weaponry, armor, all of the important things that you kind of loot along the way. They couldn't find their death box, and even if they could, it would probably have been looted. So in a bit of a tight one, but they do get themselves into that 6th position as Vermouth get taken off the board here, and FA Decimators, this being probably one of their best rounds in this final. Unfortunately, they're looking to maybe get taken out here, getting aggressed in on quite heavily. Still managing to do quite a bit of damage themselves, though. Constantly putting that pressure up in the sky. A moving target almost gets taken out, but somehow manages to survive. And in the interim, LF0 do get taken down. The attempt is a melee, but it's not to be, as he's going to get deleted. Now Shelby, only one left alive for this roster, up into a 5th place position. It's the best placement they've had so far in this final, and hoping to try to push that just a little bit further. Nope.
Oh my
not to
God.
be.
Oh my, dude, 2v2ers just won. Venboy just won that. They just won that. How did they do that? Hambino got the opening knock, and then Zura and Flavors just popped off, and now they shield swapped, and boom, they're back up to full K, just like that.
this team now has a chance. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And it was beautiful as well, because Hambino played super disconnected from Blur and Zura for a second there. Understanding that superior shield, that potential to be a rat, Hambino knew that he might have to fill that at some point. And yet, the perfect team in FA Decimators just walked into their POI and had the right off angles covered. So now, everyone's on reds. Everyone's got all the weapons they need. In fact, one's got a Kraber and an Ahri in both hands. That's insane. Armor is now fragmented, so they don't want to interact. And we're down to a top 3 situation. I mean, this is everything they could ask for.
But this is what I love about the last round, right? Because you're like, we can take some risks. We can do some slightly crazier things, because if it doesn't work out, well, we were screwed to begin with. But if it does, then we could make the craziest plays of our lives. And that's kind of what 2v1F are doing right now, as you mentioned. 3 squads left alive, and they are pushing this. They want to take that aggressive position. They want to come out on top of this. Kraber shot does not connect, but Hambino, not deterred, is actually going to push it. Ahri 45 in hand, going in so hard and fast. Well, the rest of his team tries to catch up with him, but he gives no quarter. He might die for his absolute brazenness.
Oh, no, he's not.
He's just out of range of the Rolling Thunder and is going to be able to back in as Project Armor are taken off the board here. I say taken off the board. 1 player is taken out. 3 squads left. This is getting so close down to the wire.
I think Armor might be down to 1 player. And then I think Spire is the other team left. No! Oh, goodness, it's still TKC!
Yeah, they're still in this. Look at Satiability! He just, like, YOLO straight in and survives somehow. But the fire is being traded so heavily. And finally, TKZ will get taken down. And there, that brazenness does come back to bite them. Now 2 squads left. We've got 1 rat looking to... What are we looking at?
A bunch of death boxes from the Carnage we just watched, and while we did that, 2v1F, they found the last rat in Armor. Wow. A clean sweep after 2v1F was the last full squad remaining in that top 3. They were able to clean up some extra KP, and man, they found a lot of KP in there. I mean, we saw, I think, 4 squad wipes alone, at least, from this team, and to put a win on top of that, plus the potential points that they got after, I think this team may have cracked the top 8 and may have even cracked the top 5.
Maybe. And I mean, that's what I was saying, right? You get to this last round and you're like, we're going to do something crazy. We're going to try something. If it doesn't work, we were screwed to begin with. We weren't getting much anyway. But if it pays off, if it actually works, then we could have a game live. We can actually replay that last fight.
Please, yeah.
Because we're looking at like death boxes and stuff. So if we can get that up, guys, just so that you don't have to have missed the action. But here you go. The last little bit that came through here. And we saw this, of course, playing out perfectly as TKC got taken down. And then it was down to that last little rat. The rat into 2nd place, as we'd seen before. Power slides into death. That's rough, man. I mean, you know what? If you're going to go out in style, why not with a power slide?
Yeah, that's another 2nd place rat. This time from Project Armor, TKC went for that initial rat. And yeah, indeed, it is 4 squad wipes worth, 4 TV1F, or 2v1F in the end of things. That's going to be 12 KP on top of the 12 points they got for placement. That gives them 24 points. Let's see if that got them into the scoreboard. It's going to be a tight one. A lot of top teams fell early, but a lot of other teams that were like cracking around the middle of the pack made it far. But Brain Rot Zero IQ still stands on top, and they will be your January champions.
Oh, and Project Armor with that 2nd place rat so close. Only 4 points behind, but of course 2nd place is massive. That's quite a bit of cash for themselves as well. So there you go, everybody. What a phenomenal performance from some of these teams. FA Decimators, they had like 3 points at the end of the last round, and they shot up to 12th place, okay? That's not in the money, obviously, but I'm really impressed with that last game that they had. They really, really put in a lot of effort into that. And 2v1F, all the way up to 5th place off the back of an incredible performance in that round. This is it. That last round, that last chance saloon, the last opportunity to really make a push and get something. And you can already see the huge difference that it makes.
Yeah, but in the meantime, a couple teams that didn't make the top 8, or at least got close to it, I think also deserve a solid amount of recognition. Vermouth, rounding out that pack, grabbing a cool $25 for the day. Congratulations to them after a really solid 4th game. They got a total of 8 points on top of their 5 KP. They were able to grab out of that. Leave No Witness G really starting to pop off a little more here on Storm Point. Grabbing a total of 12 points in those last 2 games. Very important for them. Spire, of course, very consistent team. Unfortunately, they just could not make those final circles and couldn't really rack up a lot of KP to go along with it. So they kind of fall a little short. Risen Rose, also a team that fell a little bit short as well. But Brainrot, Zero IQ, main characters for sure. Winning games 2 and 3, coming in 4th in game 4 and coming in 2nd in game number 1, I think. Or no, excuse me, 5th as well in game number 1. Wow, okay, so 5th, 1st, 5th. Wow, what a string of results.
Wow.
To round out the finals for this monthly.
Yeah, it's been a really, really impressive performance, I think, from all of our teams across the board. And bearing in mind, it was a very, very grueling day for our players. 8 games. It was a long one, but Brainrot Zero IQ, they performed incredibly well. They did quite well in the group stages. They didn't top it out, but of course, getting into that top 5 and securing themselves that spot in the finals to then go on and win. Did they win 3 lobbies? Yeah, I think they won 3 lobbies, yeah. which is nuts. So really, really well done. A huge congratulations to our top 8, and of course, especially to Brainrot. And that's gonna be it, folks. That is us done and dusted. Tenric, any closing thoughts before I send this home?
I'm just really happy with the showing this month, and I'm super glad that some of these teams that have grabbed a couple players piecemeal, some of these players that maybe wanted a little bit of a warm up before this LCQ, got a chance to really show their stripes, and I'm super happy with how things turned out. Yeah, again, big congratulations to Brainrot along with those top 8 teams and the 20 that made it to the grand finals. Even definitely some stiff competition along the way, and everyone really showed out.
Well, that's it from us. An action-packed day of Apex with the best of the best teams. A huge thank you goes out, of course, to Community Gaming for hosting this for us. Thank you, production, for making everything wonderful, even if you did miss the last fight. It's okay. You gave us the highlight package, and we got to see it in the end. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for running this and making it beautiful, making us look good. We appreciate you guys. And, of course, thank you to the players for participating. If you want to participate, go and check out communitygaming.io. Come join us. It is a monthly event. We'd love to have you. Thank you to the viewers for sticking around, for watching with us, for cheering for your team, showing them some love. We can't wait to see you again next month. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Until next time.